I clicked the button. You guys talk just a sec. Bleep blarp. Oh, yep, we're live. There it is. Okay. Well, I just will say we live, and then we're live, and this is the procrastinators dating sim developer commentary podcast stream. Hello, I'm Hypocrite. I'm Give and Take. I'm here. At the moment, we have Mage. And hosting with me is Chip Wiseman and Neverpaint. And there's Nate. Hey Nate, I can't hear you. Alright, so as for the content of can only hear Gib. Huh? Oh no. No. I do, I can see the green. This is I actually think this happened before, actually. God fucking damn it. I hate streaming so much. Well, apparently nobody can hear anyone, even though I can see on OBS that I'm getting desktop audio. You can just do all the voices? No, no, there are people here. There are people here with me. Oh, no. I think, alright, maybe if I unplug my headphones.
If you want to restart, I mean, that's perfectly fine too.
Oh, well, this feels like it'll probably work. It's,
Okay.
it's, my headphones do weird things to my audio interfaces, and I have never figured it out. I need to destroy my computer, rip it apart, throw it away, burn it, and then maybe it'll work.
Someone says, I hear Nate now.
Yeah, I just unplugged my headphones, and that solved the problem, so I assume as long as my speakers are not too loud, everything's gonna be fine.
Okay. Can you guys? So apparently I'm echoing, but maybe that's a headphone. I don't know. Let me see.
This is the worst of all time. Maybe if I put earbuds in, maybe it'll be different. No, that can't be it. It always does the same with any headphones.
Sorry guys, we're working on it.
No one else can stream?
I mean, other people could stream, but nobody was around and nobody was doing anything.
Yeah.
Echoey?
Test. Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. How do the other voices sound?
No one can hear you.
Oh, that's me.
It's unfortunate.
Nate coming at you straight from deep ground, everybody. It's good to be here.
Now you have echo too.
Yeah, that definitely sounded echoey.
Well, I mean, either I can't fucking hear anything, or no one else can hear anyone except me.
Magnus says I can hear everyone. And how's the quality, everybody? Are we discernible? Is
Oh
it
wait,
just me?
maybe it's echoey for another reason. Unhide all. No, that's. Why do I have two audios? God, I hate
I do
everything.
two audios sometimes on my thing, on my OBS or whatever. I just always have one muted. I do not know why it exists. Maybe that's the issue? I don't know. I don't know.
Settings. Audio. Die. Desktop audio device. Desktop audio device 2.
And
There aren't
people
two.
keep commenting. We need running feedback.
Yeah, like, please just say
Fools.
things.
Say how it is. God damn you.
Can you hear me? Or can you hear me not? Can you hear me bad? Can you hear me good?
Nate's audio is really funny. Okay.
Why
Okay,
is
how
it
about
funny?
everybody else? How about everybody else?
Why is it
Everyone
really...
else I cannot tell. How are you guys? Yeah. Please say words, everybody else.
Hello.
I'm saying it.
How does mage sound? Is it just a Nate problem?
We're hearing them through speakers.
You're talking and
We're hearing Nate through Hippo speaker. Are you sure? Probably. My speakers are really quiet though. Like if I turn them any lower down, I literally can't hear you.
I think we all sound fine to each other via Discord.
So that would suggest that OBS is doubling the audio somehow.
Nate sounds whack. How?
I mean, I could. It'd take me a minute to get set up.
it might be faster than us trying to figure out whether go to respond to that.
Wait, what is this? Mic auxiliary, volume 100%. Desktop audio. Down mix to mono. Yes. Monitor off. Tracks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Okay, so everyone but Gib is bad. Okay, so that's clear. Morally speaking,
What the fuck is a desktop audio tracks? Why are there 6 tracks? Oh,
Maybe it's getting 6 different inputs due to like the devices you have set up for whatever reason.
right, I changed a little thing. Maybe that does something.
Oh, they say Nate is good. They say Nate is good. How about you guys, Mage? You and
Okay.
everybody else?
Hello, I am speaking words again.
The people
All
seem
right.
happy. They seem content.
Alright, must have been that track thing.
Is it good
Okay,
right
cool.
now? Are we
Weird.
alive? Actually?
Well, welcome to the Procrastinators dating sim developer commentary with the developers and us.
Hello, it's us, the developers.
Yes.
Bruh.
Yeah, I can change how Mage sounds with my thing.
Don't change how I sound.
I'll change how you sound. I'll pitch shift you all the way down.
No.
Can destroy you. Can...
Alright, so basically, generally, what we're going to be doing is, I guess, the developers have things to say about the production of the game, and I don't really know what questions to ask. So, Chip or Neverpaint, do you want to, like, have an opening statement on the whole
Can we do
thing?
introductions first? Can we just say who it is and
Yeah,
what the role was? in
who
the
are you and
project?
what did you do?
Mhm.
Chip.
Okay, so I'm Chip Wiseman. I basically founded the game along with Eric C. Bass, and with him for a while directed it, and then Neverpaint joined, and he directed it for a bit too.
Yeah, I'm
Based.
Neverpaint. I joined the game production in October 2018. First, just to draw backgrounds, and then I was also doing everything else. And yeah, and we wanted to talk a little bit about like the history of the game and why the fuck we did this. And we also have a bunch of other dev members here in the waiting room who we can pull out and just let it join the conversation when we talk about their stuff, other artists and programmers and writers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in the background, we're not really going to be playing the game. I'll start it, but it's mostly just going to be like background visuals. We might skip to a certain point in the game to look at it if there's like something to commentate on. But mostly, we're just going to be talking.
Speaking of,
And if you
wanna
guys in the
comment
chat
on
have any
something-
questions, please ask them, and we will see if they are like epic or not.
Yeah.
if you want to commentate on something, it might be a good idea to screen share with us so that we can also.
Oh, how do I
see the
do
game.
this? Go
Oh
live.
dear. Okay.
There should
well,
be an
the-
option to go live on Discord in the call.
Go live.
Oh, yeah, that's true. On the bottom
go
left
live,
there.
blip, blip. Is that
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Okay. There it is.
Holy shit, that was way easier than I thought. It is. Sick.
it? Wait, it says I've been disconnected. Who cares? Who
We can't
cares?
hear you.
Okay, let's hear Chip Wiseman. You started the project. Let's hear it. Why did you do that? For what reason?
Because it's
Why?
really fucking funny. No, the main reason
Do I
is...
remember correctly? It was an April Fool's joke, or am I wrong about that?
No, so not quite.
Okay.
So
Kinda
originally, basically me and Eric C. Base and I believe Guys Eric were in the Procrastinators Patreon Discord. And we were just chatting about stuff. Somebody at some point said, oh, wouldn't it be funny if you could let the patrons date the procrastinators? And then me and Eric said, well, what if that was a game? And then it sort of spiraled, and eventually we ended up making a server for it and actually making it.
So what was the first step in like getting it designed? Did you make like a little demo? Did you start with code? Did you start with a script? How did the project launch initially?
The project
Whole
launched
bunch of
initially... Yeah, basically just...
I
Sorry,
read,
you go
I read through like the early development on Discord, on the Discord server, and it was like a few weeks or like 2 months of people getting into the server, saying they wanted to do something, and then like leaving after a while. Munchie was there for like a week, and like
nice.
and looked at everything and was like, "This sucks. I'm leaving. This project sucks. No one's doing anything."
Awesome.
But yeah, after a few weeks, something happened, I think.
Oh, I did not know that Munchie was there and said it sucks. I would have rubbed that in his fucking face if I had known that. But luckily, there's still
Munchie
time. There's
Munchie
still
is
so much
the
time.
enemy of the dating sim, what this was.
Yeah, he consistently said it would never happen.
Oh, dude, just like me with what's the album that you and Munchie finally
Gay
made?
for a day.
Gay for a Day. Yep, that passive aggressive motivational factor. I like to think anyway. Oh, that's awesome. I will definitely make fun of him and call him a stupid dickhead. Awesome. So let's see. So is it fair to say that Neverpaint ignited the spark and got the project off the ground?
No.
Is that not true?
I mean, there are like a bunch of people. Chip, who was there in the very beginning with like starting Oblivion Fall, right?
So he joined quite early on, yeah, and I'd say his work ethic really sort of kickstarted most of the development.
Certainly
because
has that.
He is just a machine. Like he works constantly.
Yep.
And
Want to actually get him in for a second to talk about his early
Yes,
stuff?
because looking at the soundtrack and seeing how much fucking Oblivion Fall music there is. I mean, he was our editor for a good portion of the time while he was doing this. I didn't even know he was involved or that was happening. I assumed that at least partially that was I don't know, splitting his attention while he was working for us. I guess it just got too much. He's one of these guys that just takes on so much responsibility and
He's actually in the waiting room.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's bring him in.
I hope he's ready. I'm just gonna pull him in. Hello.
Oblivion, what's up?
Whoa, hello.
We were just talking
Hey.
about you.
I heard a little bit, yeah.
So, do you want to talk a little bit what you did in the very beginning of the development? Like,
Okay,
you were one of the
yeah.
first guys.
So I've done some projects before. I've been around in the early like pony days working on various things, and I know that you gotta have your assets sorted out, like, and have a plan for what everything's gonna be, basically. So I know we've got a game, and it's got a bunch of guys in it and some girls in it. And what the first thing I figured out was, well, we got artists here. They need something to draw. We need to know what people are going to be wearing. We need to know how many like poses we're going to need, how many facial expressions. And so I wanted to like try and break that down and figure all of that out.
Yep.
And I think one of the first things I did was the costume design, which I think for the most part was unchanged from the beginning all the way through to the end. I actually have some of the original documents here, if I can find the folder that's in.
Yeah. I think Ben's design was the only one that changed massively.
Yeah. Here
Where's
we
that?
go.
What was he like before?
I think it's just we had certain costume ideas that didn't.
You see,
end
that
up
was
making it.
Fat Ben back in the day, and it had to be adjusted.
Oh, I see.
Hey, here we
Yeah,
go.
that-
Maybe he was like naked before, and they decided to put clothes on him.
It was
Oh.
just that some artists decided to make like their own interpretation. Like Smear, who drew Ben, just made this cool amalgam of all kinds of insane avatars and Cop Killer and Beanie Ben and stuff like that. Put it all together.
Yeah,
Oh, your
so-
shirt was open. Give in
Hmm?
that image at least.
Yeah.
Because
yeah.
I watched
Yeah.
your stream and you complained that the shirt was open.
Yeah, no,
All right. Well,
that's from
we
How
can
to
get
Do
into
Dance.
that. Like, why? Right, Chip, you drew me,
Oh.
right?
Yes, I did.
Why am I so gay? Why am I the gayest guy
gay.
you've ever seen in the entire world?
This whole game is just overflowing with gay energy. Everyone's at least a little bit gay. You just happen to be the most gay.
I would consider
guess it's fair
myself
to
the
say-
least gay, though.
Many of us are, in a complimentary sense, I would say flanderized, as in some of our extreme attributes are exaggerated, perhaps for
course.
comedic effect, for
Definitely.
for additional amusement or whatnot. So I guess they just
Yeah, I mean,
cranked the
for
gay
example, Nate, when I was drawing your art, I exemplified your legendary fit boy status.
up. Of course, a bit,
See,
a
but
bit
that's
of an
flattering.
exaggeration, but
That's
it
like
is
an
flattering.
exaggeration that's flattering. I have my hands
well-
up like, ooh. I've never
You know,
done
I
that.
was saying in my stream that as opposed to yours, Gib, we have a different problem. Whereas you perhaps feel somewhat, I don't know, not to be mean about, but like insulted. Obviously, I'm exaggerating by how gay you look, despite not being yet gay. Whereas I,
Yet.
unfortunately, with my avatar, is so much better than me in real life. I just feel shame looking at it for not living up to the standard. So two sides of the same coin, but both of us feel worthless at the end of the day. And it's
That's the
great.
most important
Mission
thing.
accomplished. Yeah.
Indeed. I'm gonna go do some pull-ups. Hang on, I'll be right back.
Just gonna,
I need to feel good about myself.
I'm just gonna skip past the gear, but get with SSS. What do we call ourselves? Live stream. I'm live stream. There we
The
go.
best character.
I'm Jump Cut Jack.
Jump Cut Jack should have been a secret character.
You know
You only
what?
see him
That
for a
would've been
couple
great.
frames.
I'm just looking at the images. I like how the Ben's like pajamas or whatever is the special outfit. If you succeed dating, you get to see his pajamas.
Yeah, I had trouble finding like iconic outfits for Ben because he just wore so many normal clothes.
Is there a way I can put these on screen? I guess there is. I'd have to download them or like window Discord. Maybe I could do that.
You can probably post them to Twitter too at some point. Should. Oblivion for want to talk a little bit about your very early soundtrack development because the big part of the soundtrack was finished before anything else in the game, I think.
Yeah, so I think the first thing I did was the library song because I thought, what wouldn't it be funny if you had like the first idea I had was having like a shh sound effect worked into the music. And then I thought it would be funny to have a voice that says, fuck you, I'm reading a book, like, in the background. And I wrote the song, like, the whole song from beginning to end was, like, 3 hours. And I'm like, whoa, that's, like, so different. Usually it takes me, like, weeks to finish a song. This was so fast, because I guess, you know, it's supposed to be out of loop and be a bit repetitive. So one of the early ideas I think we were discussing was like having stats in the game, like an intelligence stat or like different stats for different things that you would boost by like going to certain classes.
Yes.
And this was like way early on. Like maybe you would like choose between certain classes you'd go to, and you'd spend a lot of time there, and you'd need certain like stat levels to do certain tasks or something.
Yeah,
So,
back then it was
Actual
more
game instead of a
similar to
mode.
Honeypop or other dating sim games like that.
Yeah, or like a simplified version
That
of like,
would
the
have
Persona
been
stuff.
so much work.
Yeah.
Yeah. So originally I'm like, well, we're going to be spending a lot of time in classes. I think we should have a class theme, but it should be slightly different for each class. So I came up with like a generic like template of like percussion and like basic melodies. Actually, no, it was just a bass line really. And each class theme was just going to be the same, me opening the same music project file, just changing the instruments, changing the key depending on what it was, and then having a unique melody for each one. That's why a lot of the soundtrack, like all of the class themes are basically like the same song, just like slightly different, is for that reason. But again, as things went on, we ended up not sticking with that, and then we're like, we'll just use the music anywhere that it, feels right. And so
Yeah, there's
the
there's
sameness is no longer justified, and I feel a little bit of shame about that, but it's okay.
No, there's so many tracks that it never feels like anything's being recycled. Like I could notice like similarities, but it's just sort of, I don't know.
Okay.
It like
Okay, that's good.
it
Call
the
it
amount
manipulative.
of variety like makes.
I'm
up for
overly
that.
self-critical, so at least in my
Sure.
brain, like I'm like, oh no, that's like almost the same as that song. It's just different instrument.
Let's talk about the unless you already did, if I missed it, the intro song, the legendary main menu theme
Oh god.
that everyone has been celebrating from Timbuktu to Kalamazoo. What was, I mean, it says in the beginning, it is a placeholder song. Those words are
Oh, yeah.
spoken in the intro. Was there an
Oh, that's
intention to change it? But what's the story there?
Well, originally, God, this goes way back. In 2016, I wrote a shitpost album called Elite Core, which you should definitely not track down and listen to. It is intentionally the worst sounding thing you could imagine. And I was considering like a sequel to that at some time around 2018, I think. And I wrote that song, at least part of it, for that project, but I never ended up finishing it. And the middle section, which was the Through the Fire and the Flames parody, I used for one of my PCP themes, the meme theme, that was submitted like for back when that was a thing.
I remember
Yeah.
that summer.
Yeah, and basically the philosophy for that for elite or an elite core song is just to try and fit as many different opposing genres in as you can, and just write the first thing that comes to your mind. Doesn't matter if it's good or bad. The first melody you think of goes in and it stays in. And I found that when I did that, sometimes I'd surprise myself and write cool shit by accident. And a lot of that song ended up being really cool shit, and it was really long. And because there was already a slight PCP connection due to the meme theme being a thing that was played on the show, I think once or twice, and we needed like a menu music, I'm like, I don't have time to write a menu music because I think we were like I had like short notice or something, or I'd been busy with something else. So I wrote a quick like, version of the Procrastinators like, main theme, and I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna have it transition into this, and if you sit on the menu too long, you'll get this crazy like nightmare of a song. And it wasn't supposed to be final because half the music wasn't originally written for the game, but I hadn't really used it for anything yet, so we put it in.
It's just too good.
As a temp, yeah, and it was too good. It was too incredible, and none of us wanted to change it, so we just kept it.
Yeah, I don't know how you could like top that. The demo when it happened for everyone was like, what?
Whose voice is that? Who says it's a placeholder song? Is that yours?
Yeah, I think all of the lyrics in the whole soundtrack except for Carcalicious, which was something else. I think all the voices are me.
I thought so. Sick.
Like the shut up, I'm reading a book.
Yeah.
I like
Shut up. This is for library song. That's me.
Nice.
Speaking of library, when that soundtrack was like halfway finished, someone named Crunchy made a voicemail on the PCP podcast and like asked for people to join the development team, and that was on, I think it was the Deltarune episode, the one with the big college argument. And I listened to that, listened to my favorite podcast, and I was like, huh, I can draw. I can draw backgrounds.
Big
And
mistake.
I'm sure they don't have a background artist yet, and they didn't. And so I came in there and I said, okay, I'm gonna draw some sketches of backgrounds, and I think I drew the school first, which is based on the Keon school, the Sakurakaoka middle school.
That's that
high
famous
school.
outside shot of PCPU, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Because of like Digi's parallels to the Keon girls.
Of course.
And yeah, so I did that for a while, and I really like all the details in my backgrounds, and I like to put like millions of little references in it and make everything like a big search picture, and you can
Yeah,
look at it
I
all
love
along.
that in the library, so all of the different books, with all the tiny little writing, and it's like so many fucking references. It's incredible.
The library is I was kind of overdoing it there. I drew like a comic store like a year later, and I can't do that again.
Yeah. We've all loved hunting for little details. Were you the only background artist? Because some of the
No.
art styles look different.
No, I was actually going to talk about that later, but I can just say it now. I mean, I was for a little while the only background artist. Then Drakaya joined, who's a very talented like concept and visual development artist, and she made stuff like the Manchi classes, look pretty amazing. The art class and the history class, and also various other stuff like. What else did you do? The school roof or the sewers in
Oh, the sewers are great.
yeah, that's super weird background. So yeah, so she helped out with that. And we had a bunch of other artists do like sometimes one background. James Talbot, for example, did PCP Guy's Room, and
the legend, of course.
And jumping a little late into development, last November or December, we had kind of decided to get the deadline on getting all the art assets done because we kind of wanted to finish that game. And so I was like, okay, I really want to draw all of the rest of the backgrounds. But it just didn't seem possible to me that I actually finish all of them. And so we made that little call on Twitter. I said, okay, please, we need more background and CG artists.
Right.
And I actually wrote some DMs to some of the artists who did like single backgrounds before. And big shout outs to Ugly Patch here, who just is a fucking background machine. And he just took on, I don't know, probably like 20 backgrounds or something.
Something like that.
And drew them in like 2 weeks.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Could you give us an example of one of the ones he did?
It's, for example, the Bensane classes and your class. I
Yeah,
mean,
the
your
painter
those are
one.
really nice.
philosophy classes, yeah.
Right.
I drew your other class. And everything that looks all this painterly, almost photorealistic.
Oh, was
kind of
was he
stuff.
the one that when Gib was holding the plush of Vriska?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that was him too.
All these CGs that we just couldn't get done. I just like, we had a giant document with all the descriptions of those CGs we need, and I just copy pasted it over into the DMs to him. And I was like, okay, which ones do you want to do?
Again?
Ugly Patch. Follow him on Twitter. He's great. He's doing great stuff and very fast. Not like me. But funnily enough, I actually helped him sometime with like putting in the details because he didn't know what references to put in sometimes. I was like, I can't draw it myself. I can tell Ugly Patch what to put in there.
That's good. That's good. I would see all those details there's so much deep lore going on in the backgrounds of these images. I was thinking the people who drew these must be at the very least avid followers, because I think a lot of people were saying as they were playing it, like some of these details you have to be like the most dedicated followers to know, or even us ourselves from the PCP would not even recognize all of them. I like that so far. I've gotten all of them, but
in the server we made a dedicated channel called Meme Lore References. Where people just post, like any of those that they wanted to put in the game.
Oh, those are some of my favorite things about the whole game. Honestly,
there are some memes in that game that probably only 5 people get. At most.
You want to give us one? A tease of
stuff like when I wrote the thing about mage flipping veggies.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's like an obscure thing that was in that one editor example video.
Oh yeah. I remember it. I forgot where it was from though.
Yeah, I got the reference immediately, but that's because I took part in that.
That's right.
Yeah, she was just going flipping veggies, and one editor made like a little thing where I just say away flipping veggies or something, and people were talking about it in the mage server. I was like, that's a mage reference. I can do that. I can use it.
Well, we've mentioned at least one or two of the people in the waiting room. Should we maybe just bring them in just to say their piece and maybe cycle through? I think you mentioned like James Tolbert did what was it, background or something?
We can do that if he's ready.
Yeah, he did a lot of stuff actually.
Just throw him in. Fuck him.
He's our UI artist and graphic designer.
Oh, I wanted to talk about the UI because it is glorious and there's a lot of good shit. James, you there?
Hey, I'm here.
Konnichiwa, in your native language.
Sorry, what? I'm back.
Okay.
I'm here. I'm here.
Your
Can you hear me?
your UI is terrible. I changed my mind. I don't like it anymore.
Well,
Oh,
fuck
you blew
you.
it. Game's bad.
It's time to execute James.
Sorry if there's a little bit
So,
of
well, I
background noise
mean,
going
I
on
guess
right now,
I don't know.
by
Maybe
the
he's
way.
getting together or
It's fine.
anything. So, was James the one who made the UI? Because that was a whole conversation I wanted to have about who was responsible for that masterwork.
We
We
can
cannot hear you, James. Unfortunately,
Oh
not.
shit.
No,
Maybe
oh,
a mic issue or
Nate, you can't. I can.
Wait, we can hear you now.
you can hear him.
Hello? Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I can't. Let me.
I
let me
can
know.
hear
Let me
him.
fucking-
He just said
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
Hello?
Oh,
Hello.
hello. Yes, I hear him now. Okay,
Okay.
sorry.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you. I said a big fat fuck you when you said my UI sucked.
So, were you the man behind the meme of the whole UI?
Pretty much, yeah. I remember I joined not right at the start, but like a couple months down the line, I think. I was actually in the Mud Puddle, Hippo's Discord, randomly joined a voice call where Oblivion Fall was hanging, I think composing the intro, like the title screen
Yeah.
song or something. And you, Oblivion Fall, told me that this project was going on, and I decided to join it without really knowing what I could do for it. But it was all thanks to you, really, that I joined the project.
I completely forgot about that. That's cool.
Yeah.
Man, the mud puddle is so strange. I have no idea what happens in there.
It's
Yeah.
this
It's
mythical
a scary,
place.
dark place.
It
Below the
took me a
mud, no one can
second
see.
in the game when I read about the mud puddle on the ground. It was like, well, why is there? Oh, okay, that's Gibbs' thing.
Yeah.
I was just eating by a mud puddle. It's cute though.
I love many of the details about the UI. By the way, like my favorite little detail is when a character is talking, you've got that little kind of floating panel over their
Yeah.
name that's just oscillating back and forward. And of course, everything is color coded based on like the names of the piece. I mean, the whole game is taken note of the color coordinating of the members of the PCP.
I
But
love
That part was
yeah.
actually working together with Chip Wiseman
Yeah.
because we were running a little bit late on time, so Neverpaint came up with like the general color that each character should be. I
Mhm.
made the text box, and then Chip colored it in different ways and exported each one individually just to help us save time. So that one was a bit more of a group effort. And
Looking
the
back on it, it would have
oscillating.
it would have been way more efficient to just like recolor it in the code. But
Yeah.
we're already really late into development.
Yeah.
Do those exist as like video files in the game or something? Is that how they're implemented?
They're frame by frame animations. Some of
Oh.
them. Others are video files. Just depends
Mhm.
on what would run better.
I see.
That's up to the code people
Mhm.
that figured it out. But yeah,
Oh, you
go
mean
back
like
to
when you move, like press forward, like and boxes?
what?
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
I'm
the whole- all
I'm
the
trying to
text
see what
boxes.
things are animated. Like there's the floating color around the name. There's the little CD.
Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah.
like, does it like
Oh,
fall
go
apart?
to the save menu. Let's see that whole animation.
Oh yeah.
Let's see
That
that
stuff's great.
spaz. That was glorious.
I'm glad you liked it.
That's
That's
awesome.
kind of what was putting like a finishing touch over the whole game, that it actually looks more consistent, because very early on we decided, because that would just be too much work, to just have like a clusterpunk aesthetic where all the art styles just clash together. That's
Yeah.
Sure.
And I heard that, and I didn't like that. So
I'm with you, James. I'm with you.
yeah, the way when I joined, I didn't even know how to animate yet. But I'm a graphic design student,
Mhm.
and since the project started, or since I joined, I've basically taught myself how to animate and how to do graphic design for a video game.
Oh, that's
So initially, I
amazing.
just joined to do the logo and the colors and shit. But then I decided to learn how to do the UI, and eventually I took over the graphic design for most of everything except a few like publicity things that Chip Wiseman did, like the character cards and the box art and all that.
That's the way you learn, folks. Take a project, figure out the nitty gritty details as you go, and you will become a
Yeah.
god.
Yeah,
Just get
and
into it.
pretty much I
I
didn't like the
also-
idea of the clusterpunk mishmash of art styles, and I thought that I really wanted a consistent design and color scheme to go over the entire game, so something would unify it, something would make it like a real product and not
it
just a collection
Really
of fan
added
work.
a like a sheen, like a polish to the whole thing. It's like, this is
Yeah,
a real video
absolutely.
game.
Yeah, that was the idea behind it, basically.
To,
But yeah.
to clarify, if we had like a more consistent art direction, we would have needed like 1 or 2 artists to draw all the characters, and there are like 45 characters in the game, and
And about 45 artists involved.
around I
Well,
don't remember.
sure. Of course, those things are understand. I mean, all the character designs are done by different people, and even amongst the PCP, they're all a little bit different. Of course, all
Yeah.
charming in their own way, but it certainly makes it a little bit unusual, I suppose, to your average cast of main characters or anything. But they look great
I see
together.
a question in the live stream chat. McHell says asks, are there any plans on moving this to Steam? Is that possible?
I mean, we kind of stay clear of storefronts like that because we don't own the intellectual property rights to you guys' likenesses.
Oh,
Sure.
It's
I
probably gonna
will
cost
too.
money to put it on Steam as
That
well.
too.
Yeah, it's like $100, I think.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, forget it. Lol.
Well, okay. First of all, $100 is not an amazing hurdle to
Yeah,
overcome.
if-
but okay, but
if,
beyond
like,
that,
we all
beyond that,
chip in $5. I mean, we could do it. I'll chip in
complicated.
$5.
hey, as the savvy businessman I am, I'll throw out there. I'm sure an arrangement could be reached when it comes to splitting the profits between we, the intellectual copyright holders of ourselves, and you, the hardworking slaves who toil to produce wealth for us.
Okay, it's $100, Nate. We could
throwing it out
probably just have like it's not even that big of a deal.
No. I mean, but who knows what the profits could be selling this to the sheep out there?
Selling it.
Oh,
But
well,
it
I mean,
has
theoretically.
so much copyrighted bullshit inside of it. I don't even know what
That's
the legal...
a fair point. That's a
What
fair
will,
point.
what will that anime snob think?
when
Only
when
man
he's
I'm
literally
pretty scared of.
eviscerated on screen, yeah, that's true. Well, of course, all likenesses are completely incidental, so you covered yourselves.
That fits so funny.
All intellectual
No, they're-
property stolen is an accident. We didn't mean it.
Oh, something I wanted to mention. One of the things I'm the most proud of in the game is the credit sequence, which I worked together with Asha AM to make.
Yeah, her art was great.
Eric C. Bass made the song. And basically, from the start, from like almost the very start of development, we thought of doing a do-da-da-da style ending in which all of the characters are towered up on one another. And
That's where it's from because I recognized it. I just
So
It's really
Asha
cute.
made the image, and then I basically like looked at the do-da-da-da ending and poured over. I like skipped through it frame by frame and figured out what kind of animations they were doing and tried to learn how to make them. And I'm just really proud of how it came out. I think it's really, really nice. The timing of the crescendo with the music, with the logo showing up, and then the misty, blurry, nostalgic style credits. Pretty proud of that. I'm just happy. I'm happy with what I learned thanks to this project.
Yeah, I'll have to look at it in more detail. It's funny to see the, when you're playing through a game, you kind of blast through, you don't pay attention to the details. But you guys making it to put love into every little bit, every little piece was thought about and slaved over a little bit. Should we? Hey, Asha is there. Maybe we should bring her in.
Asha is there.
Yeah,
I mean,
she
she made a
could
ton of
just
art.
talking about character art in general.
Asha made like her first full animation for this, for this dating sim as well.
Yeah.
Ready?
I saw it. It was amazing.
Hello, Asha.
Hey,
Hi.
big girl.
Hello.
Hey,
What's up?
just watching the stream. And...
What was the animation? I don't know if I've seen that yet. I've only played through
it's
the
at
Oh,
the
naked.
end
it's
of
in
the-
the bad
mage
end
route.
of the mage route.
Yeah.
I
So
see.
I
the
saw
mage-
it.
The mage turns into lethal and just slashes you in half.
It's the best part of the game.
You specifically, Nate.
Well, let's see. You did Digi's design. You did who else?
Jesse.
Mage.
Forgetting off the top. Jesse. You did Action Giraffe, most importantly.
The
Mage.
cockcast and
The Cockcast, of course, the whole crew. Mage, yeah.
and
yeah.
the PCP guy. The one image of the PCP
Of
guy.
course, that's right. Which, by the way, is one of my favorite moments when you were playing through the demo and it's revealed that you are the PCP guy. I'm to be congratulated for making sure that the PCP guy lived on during our tumultuous time of reinventing the PCP. So you're welcome, everyone. But well done. Well
And I'm
done,
the
Asha
one
and
who
team.
who brought him back to life, so you're welcome from me
That's
too.
true. That's
Wait,
true.
is he
It's funny
still
as-
there right now on the podcast? I don't remember.
Of course.
It is?
You
Okay.
better. Yes, of course. The funny part was in the beginning of production of the game, we were just like, oh yeah, the PCP guy's a character, and I was just like, okay, I want to draw the PCP guy, please.
Mhm.
But question, how do you make the PCP guy beyond his one expression of derp?
Right, right.
There is like a second image for a PCB guy, but it's just like him with more squinted eyes going.
Oh shit, I remember that. I remember
It's
that asset.
hilarious.
Did we ever
Oblivion
use
Fall
it?
made it. I don't think he used it in the actual game, but Oblivion Fall like
Yeah, it was in the
adjusted
demo.
my image.
It was in the demo.
It was in the
Yeah,
demo.
no, it is in the game because like PCB guy looks in the mirror and then he says, "Oh God, I
Oh
look
yeah,
like shit," and
he looks
then
at
his
himself
eyes.
and then he squints. Yeah. I remember.
It's great.
His two expression, bemused and slightly more bemused.
Yes, exactly.
Nah.
So, Asha, how did you get involved? What was your route to joining the team?
Well, it started with me wanting to befriend Neverpaint because
Hello.
he he reached out to me to draw like fake Pokemon for the quick draw thing.
It wasn't a
Yeah.
quick draw yet, it was a draw cast.
Oh yeah, it was Drawcast. So we drew together, and it was like cool, cool art dude. I want to talk to him more. How can I talk to him more? It's just like, oh, he's doing backgrounds for the dating sim. Maybe I could draw backgrounds. Maybe I could help, but I don't know. I thought it was shit, so it was just like, I can't help with this game at all. And then
Cooking
somehow I fell
stuff.
into being a character.
That's how I felt, and then I did. So good on both of us,
Yeah.
Sasha.
You know, that's
Yeah,
how
and
life really is. You're going about your life thinking that you're not good at stuff, but then you just do things and you realize how incompetent everyone else around you is, and that if
Right?
you won't do it, no one will.
Right?
That's been my
agree.
real experience of life. Yeah, it is.
Like
Yeah,
how
and
no
then-
one was able to finish any character art in the months before Asha joined, and then she just churned out
Yeah,
all
you
the
made like
mage art in like
almost
2
most
weeks.
of them.
Yep. That's how it goes.
Yeah, I was like the only one trying posting stuff into the art Discord.
Oh, I remember that part of development.
It was
I remember
just
joining
nothing but
precisely
my art.
when nobody else but you were posting, and there were like a ton of meetings going on almost every week to decide everything else. And it seemed like the only thing that had been decided was that Asha was drawing characters.
Oh, everyone missed out. Drawing characters is like the best part.
Yeah, that's the hot point. Everybody loves the
It is
characters.
also the hardest part though, because you have to draw
Yeah.
like 5
Mhm.
poses and
Okay, but
like
backgrounds.
20
Backgrounds are the hardest part.
20
I'm gonna
second
argue.
expressions. Backgrounds are easier to me because you only have to redraw
Yeah.
one for one location and not like a whole asset pack of character art.
I
And that's
would
why. Sorry.
I would rather draw like 15 poses than one background.
No,
It
that's
just
Fair
depends on what each of us is interested in artistically. I
Yeah.
was afraid of doing characters because if they were not good enough, then maybe you guys wouldn't like them. But I was fine doing a background because you only see it a few times, and it's not as important as a recurring character.
Sure.
It was
Hey,
also
James,
just that some.
I appreciate you putting Tiki in the background of the PCP guys thing, because it's like consistently the thing that nobody understands what it is.
I know, right? I put it in, and so many people ask me, "What's that?" But who's that? Even I remember Noodlebomb, another fellow artist. Follow him on Twitter. Noodlebomb colored it for me because I think it was busy at the time with exams or something, and he was asking me, "What are her colors? What's this character?" It's,
Despicable. Die.
Pale chick? Come on,
Read the
guys.
manga.
Read the manga.
Yeah.
But mangas have no colors, mage. Yeah.
That was a kind of a problem
Sometimes.
throughout the production that some character art assets were just not. Nobody wanted to do them.
Yeah.
Or like the artists who they had just did something, showed an artwork, and then jumped off or disappeared, went silent.
Sure.
The
For a
curse.
long
That
time.
happened. That actually happened with the UI. Initially, there was another person,
Really?
and they kept like
Yeah.
DMing them about designing it together, and then they ignored me for a bit, and then they left the server. So
Oh, that's mean.
That was a recurring theme during the whole production.
Oh,
yeah,
Yeah, that's how free projects
talking
go.
about like people jumping ship and stuff. I saw in the credits there was one person credited for a character, but the character got scribbled out. What's that about?
haha. Well, you haven't
That's a
reached the
secret.
secret ending, Mage.
I see. I saw the Digi's guide to the roots and stuff, and I was wondering like, what is this very sudden secret ending, bad ending that you can get, and I didn't get it yet.
Okay, so it's not that one. It's a different secret ending. But
Ah, okay.
Yeah, there's a couple.
Has anyone discovered everything yet, to your knowledge?
I don't know whether I've discovered everything. I think I've seen basically all the routes. I haven't maybe... There's... Alright, here's a question. Some of the characters you can get on their route right from the beginning. And others
Right.
you can go down like a bit of a digi path or a bit of a bend path and then swerve and change course or something.
Mm-hmm.
Do the events change? Are there like scenes that are hidden behind like starting earlier or later for a certain character?
so the only character who you can actually go into their route after starting another character's route is Endless War. All
Right.
of the
I
other
think
ones
he
are
means
one and
within
done.
the common route, you can do like a hippo answer and then walk into a different route because that hippo answer was just for flavor and doesn't actually reflect your choice into the hippo route.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
think there are like
Basically, the answer is that there's one specific question that will lock you into a route. All the other questions just give you extra text in the common route for each character. So
There
it's
was an update recently that makes the
Exactly.
choices now colored. I don't think Gib has the update yet.
No.
E.
I'm OG. I've got the secret original release.
The one that
They tried
crashes
to
if you
delete it
put in
off
the name wrong.
the PS4 store. They like you
Right.
can't buy it anymore. It's unique and you know, special.
and worse and of zero value to
No.
anybody.
I like things that are worse. Thanks.
That's called hoarding. That's called hoarding, kid.
Hey, I would love to hear a little bit about the programming as a programmer myself and who was responsible for creating this thing. And I know it was using a Godot, which I've never used, but I was considering when I was making games back in college and stuff. So who was responsible for such things?
Originally, it was a guy called Remedy, and he did most of like the backbone of the programming. But then, I mean, I don't know what was going on in his life, but he just kind of left out of nowhere.
Sure.
As we were ramping up towards release. And so we had to get someone in to help, and that was Distracted Misfit.
Well,
I
there should we
low-key
bring
feel
him in real
like
quick?
my UI killed him. I feel like he didn't know how to implement it and
Possibly.
panicked.
A
There's
distracted
the point.
MOSFET.
Whoa, just a second. Oop.
No
Hello.
problem.
no, it was kind of, you know how we wanted to release that game on like Valentine's Day.
Yep.
That was like a wonderfully like thematic release date for dating sim.
Yeah, how far away from release were you when you thought you could get that?
Well, we finished all the scripts and the assets, everything around New Year, and then basically just the programming took very long. Just putting all the hundreds of assets together, and yeah, Remedy was working on that basically alone with like some help of some other programs who did a little bit, and as we were like approaching Valentine's, it was like, okay, we're not gonna make it, but we can release it before Radcon for sure. It's
For sure.
It's like a few weeks. We can do that, and
That's
and
like
then-
that's like a Nate Bestman promise. You never want to do one of those.
well, we didn't make it on a podcast, so.
Indeed.
On our podcast.
I think, unironically, it was a good thing that it wasn't finished in time for Radcon, because we were so busy having like that to stream.
That's true.
Would have been
That's
like
true.
a lot of extra, like, oh god, there's this and that.
Honestly, yeah, I agree.
Also, I think the game just turned out better overall for having been delayed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Understandable.
mostly because after Remedy left, we got distracted MOSFET, and I was like, whoa. And he just, and not just distracted MOSFET, by the way, a few other guys who also worked on. Do you have the names, Chip?
I don't have the names on hand. But I can get them.
Aristotle Penguin did a couple of things, and
yeah.
There is, so yeah, I think it's idle somewhere, and I think it is in the Discord. Yeah, shout out to those guys.
Oh, there's.
But
MOSFET, I'm very curious as to like kind of your background. Are you a student? Are you a professional? What's your background?
Yeah. Okay. I'm wondering, like, I'm slightly curious, we kind of already touched on, I'm slightly more curious of this from these guys' perspective of like just iterating that element of like, so for reference, I joined this very late. I am of the people who are on the stream, the person who's on this project for the least period of time. I just checked. I appeared in the Discord on the 5th of March. So I
5th
appeared
of March.
less than
Jesus Christ.
yeah, less than a month before this project came out. And now, before anybody in the audience tries to shit talk me, this isn't oh, you just appeared right at the end. No, causally related. The game came out less than a month after I appeared because I appeared.
Yep.
God damn
Yeah,
it.
he's our guardian angel. We were
Gotcha.
so lucky to have him. We were thinking this was never going to happen, and then this guy fucking shows up and cleans up shop, finishes everything, adds extras.
Damn.
It's just like, I love you, man. Thank you.
Thanks. So it's
Kiwi
one of those
God.
weird things about me talking about this is on some level I kind of just have to flex. I just have to lean into it.
Sure,
So
yeah.
whatever. Yeah, so, and like for extra context here, I'm a lurker. I had never commented on a PCP video. I had never appeared in any Discord. These guys had never heard of me before. I just show up in what was mostly a 9-day blitz in which I sleep 6 hours every night, and I just alternate between do my day job. So I am a professional, I'll get to that. Like do my day job, get off of the work computer. I work from home, so I literally just get off the work computer, go over to my computer and start cracking on this game for 9 days straight, which I remember almost nothing from now. It's just like an absolute blur of code that like it just went by like almost instantly. But yeah, the game bloody well got done. It's just one of the several times this project almost died, which is like a whole subject we should touch on. But yeah, so briefly me, I'm a professional. I work as a software developer as my day job, not in games. I did work as a video game programmer for about 1.5 years. Not anywhere and on anything that anybody watching this will have heard of, so I'm not going to bother. I'll spare you those details. But I've been someone who, like many people, had like.
Bro, don't lie. I know you made Raid Shadow Legends. You can't fucking bullshit me.
Oh no, he knows. Anyway. So I was definitely one of those people who went through like the classic creative thing for a very, very long time, trying to make stuff and failing, just like constantly. Video games is very easy to do in because they require so much effort to have anything cool, really. And so I was one of those people who had like a decade of trying to make games from like my mid-teens. And failing to do it. And it was only a little longer than 1 year ago that I really developed the ability to actually see through any serious projects, which is great. Sure. And I mostly make little tiny stuff, but I'm still happy to do it. And I mostly use Godot as that's my general go-to engine. And so like, it's on some level, it's almost as hard to explain like the why. Why did I do this? Why did a lurker who has no interaction with this community just appear from the shadows and then just ruin his life for 9 days in order to have this game like actually finishable? Like, and like, it's hard to explain.
What spurred you? What was it that I assume was the shout out from the dating sim guys here when they were like, "We need programmers, please, God, save us."
Yes. That was the thing that I saw, which, like, when you think about it in terms of like times this project almost died, like, sure, the project could have, still had a chance of coming out, but who knows when it would have came out? Because like, I didn't follow this project. It was a total coincidence that I saw that tweet. I happened to be looking at someone's timeline, and they happened to have retweeted it, and they just said like, "We're looking for Godot help," and I it's. The only way I can describe kind of the psychology of it is it was almost like performative identity. Like my day job as a programmer, and I
ain't that just the human condition though, brother? Ain't we all just performing every damn day?
Basically, but it's almost become kind of part of my identity. This idea of like I'm someone who can work in crises and achieve ridiculous things under small like time constraints and just things that shouldn't even be doable. It's basically the whole time.
God damn, this nibba really is sick of sucking his own dick harder than any man I've seen.
Sorry, I just have to. And like it's a thing I generally do at my job. Like when some horrible fucking crisis is unfolding, I generally get pulled into it. And so like I just see this tweet go out, and I kind of go like, well, they need a programmer help. I'm a programmer. It's for a PCP thing. I'm a PCP fan. They need Godot helps. But yeah, that's my weird story of this flippin' thing.
Hang on, guys, 1 sec. Oh, okay, the stream blipped. Okay, never mind. It's back.
Yeah. Sorry,
Okay.
I was gonna bit.
No problem.
But less talking myself up and more random programming things. Like one element there, which is probably worth talking about, is Godot. So the demo for this game used Ren'Py. I'm not sure. Ren'Py? I assume it's pronounced Ren'Py. Which is a very popular visual novel engine. Basically, every like English language original visual novel you see come out is probably done in Ren'Py, because it's pretty damn good for that job.
It's been around for forever.
Yeah. It's ancient as hell. And the decision to move off came before I appeared. To my understanding, and people like Chip and Neva will probably be good for confirming this. To my understanding, the motivation was things like uncertainty of how to do how to deliver James's UI in Ren'Py, and also trying to achieve characters like 9/11 and Artso Fartso. Proved to be extremely challenging.
Yeah,
And
literally
so
9/11 is the main reason.
That's one of the
My favorite character.
That's one of the things I wanted to talk about, because in hindsight, the whole programming thing with Godot was such a time sink, and maybe we should have decided back then in like last year in April, we should have maybe decided to just stick to Ren'Py and just live with the limitations instead.
Sure.
Yeah.
I was wondering,
Could you explain the limitation to me? I don't understand. Like, what about the 9/11 character that was so weird?
So animated characters, animated sprites. Ren'Py has very limited support for those. Like you can do it, but you have to do a lot of programming workarounds. And we decided if we're going to do that, we might as well just scrap the whole thing, build it all again in Godot, and try and do it that way.
It's a terrible choice. Absolute choice.
Yeah, I was wondering, like, if I wanted to make my own thing, like a visual novel, like from the horror stories I hear of the PCP dating sim, it would be a fucking nightmare. But if I didn't have 9/11, you know, maybe it'd be alright.
Yeah. But then your game wouldn't have 9/11. I mean,
it's barely even a game if it doesn't have 9/11. I mean, what's the point?
I was actually wondering about the whole animated sprite thing. For some reason, at some point, like two months ago or so, I googled if Ren'Py can support like Live 2D. I think it's called the program where you make those like animated sprites and stuff. And I couldn't find a conclusive answer if it could or couldn't. So I guess the answer is like it can't.
Not really, no.
It's not optimized for it, and you have to kind of cheat the system to make it happen.
Yeah, I see Shade in the chat here saying of interest that there was also talk of mini games that were thought that Godot might support better.
Yeah.
Well, it would be easier to make them in Godot than in Ren'Py.
Well, I mean, any examples of the kind of mini games you guys were thinking of?
I don't think we ever got that far.
No,
we had one planned.
Connect 3.
we had one planned. It was like back when we were talking about stats and like money systems and stuff. There was going to be like a work game where your day job is rating shitty YouTube comments.
That's right.
Yeah.
Like Ganguro Girl, my favorite dating sim. You guys don't know Ganguro Girl?
I'm afraid I don't.
Embarrassing. Okay, never mind.
Actually, on that topic, how many people in this call in this dev team are actually visual novel people? I'm just really curious.
I play visual novels.
Not me.
I play them. I play them.
Okay, I remember the first few meetings when we were like deciding what the structure of the game would be. I had to explain, because I've played a few visual novels and most of the people on the team hadn't. So I remember like drawing out diagrams of what a common route was and how like the different routes splinter off the common route, and just basic things like that just seemed obvious to me, but I just had to explain how visual novels work. And
you have to explain how a visual novel is the most brain dead game design possible. It's barely a game at all, frankly, but yeah.
It is a novel. And it's a very long novel.
Yep.
Those days were fun.
Hey, that famous image you guys posted of the script. Now, some of us were hypothesizing that might be a little bit padded for dramatic effect. But is that so, or is that an accurate depiction of all the text?
I think it's time, if you mentioned that we start talking about the writing, and maybe get our rest of our writers in here.
Yeah, sure.
And also, some guys want to leave for a second? You can come back. Just the voice call doesn't get too crowded.
Sure.
Yeah, I have some random small programming crap I can chuck in later, but that's my main thing. I just wanted to flex. I just needed to get that in.
I was pretty much absent from the project during the whole writing thing anyway, so I can pop out.
Okay.
Yeah, same here.
So we got Ourobarista.
So of course, I know Eric wrote quite a bit.
And Eric.
Oh fuck.
Here we go.
Hi.
Eric.
Hello.
Hello.
So yeah, the script is
Jade, of
printed
course. Hello.
duplex. It's Calibri 11. It's hella long. I printed it for free at uni.
Oh, so that was the whole script in Calibri 11.
Well, no, we made some minor edits afterwards. The final script is, I think, maybe 1 or 2 pages longer.
I see. Hey, it looks like Eric
Oh
needs a
god,
role
wait a sec, I'm hearing myself. Okay, no.
Oh wait, yeah.
So, let's just start. So, Ourobarista, Ourobarista.
Ourobarista. Just Oro or
so
O
what was
is
your main,
fine.
Were you mainly a scriptwriter? What were your dedicated routes or what?
Yeah, I'm exclusively a scriptwriter. I wrote the routes for the Devu, the Digibro, and the Tom Oliver, and then some scenes for Gib, specifically the ones described as quote-unquote gay and quote-unquote too long. Yeah.
Since I was curious about how the writing was handled. So, just for example, I remember I was playing through the Nate route and there was a Tom scene there. I was wondering if there were people who were kind of in charge of for example, the integrity of Tom's character throughout routes, or if those were just divvied up.
Yeah, in the very beginning, that we decided to have you know how the PCP consists of basically 9 different fandoms that are just crossing over each other because everyone is a fan of someone's head. And we wanted to have character consultants who, for someone a digi head who knows all the digi lore, or a RCK guy who can help with that stuff. And that was actually how I came into the writing, because I said, "Oh, I'm a mage server. I know some of the mage memes. I can do that." And for some reason, I then became a mage writer. I'm not sure how that happened, but yeah. So we had.
I appreciate your
at the
effort.
end.
That's also how I ended up writing the Jesse route as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, what you are referring to, the sanctity of characters in different routes was kind of preserved in the proofreading, as in we went over other routes, and just if we felt that the character we were primarily writing was characterized maybe not all that great, we changed a few lines or changed the wording a bit. So there wasn't specifically a process for that, but we made it work.
I take offense to being called a Fujoshi at least 2 times.
How would you describe yourself, Mage? If
Not a Fujoshi.
Okay.
I mean, but maybe Digi would call you that. So
Would he though?
I have no idea.
I think it might enter his mind.
I just wanted to write a Digi and Mage scene because that almost never happens. And
Digi has been accused of using Japanese colloquialisms.
Digi has been known for his wrong use of words historically.
Oh yeah.
So perhaps it's not a bug; it's a feature.
Yeah.
So okay, well that's Ourobarista. How about let me see who else is here. Shade. So Shade, what was your writing credentials? What did you do?
Right. So I wrote the Ben route and the Endless War mini route.
That must have been painful, writing the Ben route, spending that much time with Ben. Yikes.
Unfortunately, I am a Saint head, so
God,
I loved every bit of it. And then I also wrote a bit of Gibbs route. And actually, I kind of wanted to kind of explain a little bit about Gibbs route, because there was... it's like, Gib had a question from before. In some stream, he said, why did you kind of split it in between multiple people?
Yeah.
Originally, I was supposed to be the one writing for it. I'm going to say that it was short answer is that it's my fault. Long answer, it's totally not my fault. Because the writing for this game was...
horrible.
It was horrible.
Disgusting.
This was awful.
Cruel.
It's a visual novel. Like it's a novel. The writing is like I
Most
guess
important
quote
thing.
unquote the most important part.
Yeah.
But it was terrible to write this game because it's hard. It's much harder to get people to write than it is for people to draw stuff because it's like way more investment. So like even back in the demo, I was one of the early writers who came in. At the time, it was only Tio who was considered a writer at the time, and he didn't really want to write. He was more of a programming guy.
Yeah, he programmed the demo, by the way. He
did, yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Tio.
demo in Rampy. Tio.
And at the time, like we had like maybe 3-4 people writing the demo or something like that, and we wanted like at least like one writer for each person, like for each member. Like it seemed kind of fair, you know, like about 9 people writing. Each writer would like tackle its own route. That seems like a fair division of the work, but we ended up having like half of that, and we had to fill in a lot of other spaces with like Neverpaint and Chip, who really weren't like, they wanted to more to draw stuff rather than to actually be part of the writing team. So yeah, and the Gib route was just another consequence of that. I had to take on the Ben route, the Endless War route, and the Gib route, and I didn't have enough time to do the Gib route. The IRL stuff came, and we had to kind of piece together something for that. So I'm sorry, Gib. I wanted to do you more justice.
The day of the deadline for script writing, all of us just pitched in and finished it, basically.
I see.
Yeah,
I see.
I mean it's not terrible, but the whole thing with Endless War that was set up, I think in the demo, it was like a weird history thing with Gib and Endless War. I still don't know what, like what that implies, but it was interesting.
It was like basically the idea for the Gib route, the one that I had at least, I was tasked with it, even though at the time I personally didn't know much about like Gibbon. I wasn't much of a Gibbon head, I guess, at the time. But the idea at the time that I wanted for the route was like the idea of indecision. Gib be like a little bit more of a indecisive person, like not you as a person, but the character. Like the character in the game, kind of a thing. And so this would just be another aspect of his indecision, where you would have Endless War, who was like had the kind of
Do I put it in her
personality.
vagina or her asshole? I can't decide. I'll just do nothing and go home.
And then there would be like V, or like Wilvbin, or however you pronounce that.
Really distinct Riska.
Yeah, who would be like another choice, and then there would also be, you know, you, the player character, who would want to get in on that, and Gib would just kind of be indecisive about the whole thing, and it would kind of, the idea was it was to progress through the route of like him trying to figure out who he was gonna like be with, and it would eventually be you if you made the right choices, kind of a thing. So there was more that I wanted to do with that, but unfortunately I didn't really do too much for it. I only wrote a couple of the scenes, so it kind of felt piecemeal in that it didn't really finish. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool. It's cool that it was there at all. I should say.
I also
Kind of
think
amazing that we got it done in one day.
some interesting things came out of that, because we were in the voice call and we were dividing up the scenes, and we only had very basic descriptions of what happens in each one. So every writer went and did their thing.
Right.
Then we combined the routes into a document, and Chip and I had very different readings about what the LARP was gonna be. Chip's that just, okay, we're gonna pick costumes and we're gonna do a fun thing, and then my scene starts with them having been lost on a pirate adventure at sea for 2 weeks.
I was a little confused about like how much of that was like them pretending that they were on like an adventure for weeks.
Idea later was then, okay, they were going on a LARP and they got lost. Apparently we didn't make that clear enough in the scene. Some people got it that way. You didn't, apparently, which is, our fault. Very sorry for that.
Intention. It's subversive. My expectations are so subverted. It's an 11 out of 10.
Yeah, that's my favorite unplanned joke in the entire game. The scene ends with you outfit shopping, and then you've been lost on a pirate adventure for 2 weeks. It's great.
That's good.
That's good. But speaking of the way that the writing was awfully divvied up and we had a chronic awful lack of writers, let me relay my tale of ninja suffering. because yeah, I joined the game right after the demo when I found out that this was a real project, which I didn't know
It
before.
was actually happening.
Yep.
Yeah, that actually happened. I was like, okay, I can write for things, and I was hired on. Then, like 10 days later, I was on the team by April 11th, and I was okay, I'm gonna write the VU. And then in a voice call, I just said, okay, we don't have enough writers. I'm also gonna write Tom. So I wrote Tom and the VU in a month. I think
He was
those
the
were
only one
two
who kept
routes.
the deadlines for the
Yeah,
ride.
the first 2 routes to finish were my 2, I think. And then I didn't do anything for a while. And I was later at a point the most stressed I had maybe ever been in my life. And I wake up to a message from Neverpaint, hey, we don't have enough writers, we're not going to make this on time. Do you want to write Digi? To which my response was...
the Digi writer we had on, he's called, I forget
Eric
his
is
name,
here.
but
Eric is in chat.
yeah, we had a Digi writer on who was supposed to take that, but they eventually left midway through the project. And kind of at that point was like a split decision. We were just like, wait, we do not have enough writers for this. So we ended up having to like kind of stack 3 routes for like people. So I ended up taking 3, and Arborista ended up taking 3. We eventually found like Ethan was a late addition to the writing team who eventually wrote the Munchie route.
Munchie was another thing, because I think we had like 4 Munchie writers throughout the entire project.
Everybody wants Munchie.
And the thing is, they first all wanted Munchie, and then they left without doing anything. And
Typical Munchie heads, useless, pathetic rowdy, crashing, never committing to any work.
But then we luckily got Ethan Strawberry, who knows Munchie pretty well and wrote a wonderful route. Yeah, so that went out.
I think it was helpful that he is gay for Munchie in real life. That probably helped his.
I enjoyed Munchie. They were streaming it on RFCK or something. Munchie like knew all of the extremely obscure like Ethan and Munchie history references.
It's just for them. It's just
for them. It was cool.
Yeah, so I said, well, I'm busy with live things. I don't think I can do this, but I'm get back to you in a day. And I did, and I said, yeah, I'm going to write it because my neurotic brain can't say no to that. And I was so far down sunk cost fallacy that, yeah, okay, I'm going to write this. And I did.
If you were to estimate, what kind of hour-long commitment would you say writing a route is? We talking 10 hours, 20 hours, 50 hours? What's an estimate?
I think it probably differed for everybody. Like, I know for mine, I'm sure I took individually, I think I probably took the most on mine for any individual route. That was probably
This is Eric
over
Seabase, everybody. Welcome, welcome, Eric. Yeah, please continue.
So it took probably over like 100 hours to write the Nate route.
100 hours? Holy moly! Okay,
it is the longest route in the game.
Sure, sure.
I'm
sure that's including all branching paths and whatnot.
The thing about writing these routes is that it was not only just the writing process, but we needed to rewrite parts and redo a lot of things and a lot of proofreading because we had to mesh it with the game. So if the game didn't support something, we needed to rewrite that thing. So there was a lot of aspects of that. Like the writing was extended to such a long time because of, we did not have enough people to do it. And then we also needed to, make it a substantial thing of a route. And then we also needed to mesh it all together, because each individual writer is doing their own thing, right? We didn't really have much of a hierarchy in this, in the writing at least. So we just kind of left it to each person to kind of do their own thing. And then we needed to kind of combine it all together to make sure it all worked in the game in the end. So it was a lot of proofreading over other people's routes to make sure that all the lore was consistent and so on and so forth.
And
so,
it wasn't.
So it was quite a nightmare for quite a while, but it eventually worked out.
A lack of communication was a problem throughout development.
That's hey, my gripes about a lack of hierarchy. Hierarchy is good, everybody. Having bosses and subjects is a good thing. It helps for organizing.
Especially
when it's a true communist project with nobody earned any money.
I mean, well, a true communist project would be lots of money, but only the leader taking it all, and for operational costs. Now that's true communism.
Nate, please don't bring politics into this.
No, that was kind of one of big things that like the art assets and the writing just like didn't fit together a lot, and we. I had to remind writers a lot, kind of like to just use the art assets that we already have and not like last minute getting new art assets made because they're all getting done and stuff. And also just things that like the description of the backgrounds in the text fit with the background artwork actually. That's
right.
Didn't work out.
I assume that the writers probably get a little carried away sometimes, thinking about like, oh, we need this, and this asset to make my vision for this scene come true, and then there had trimming back of what's realistic.
It's this intense feeling of power. You type words and people will draw them for you.
Yeah, that was a really weird part about the whole thing.
Guy of the whole project. Who can I shame for being an overly ambitious clod? Who was it? I bet it was you, Shade, you piece of shit. I bet it was.
I mean, yeah, I did do quite a bit of stuff for the game, because like I had like for a lot of the scenes, like I had a thing in my head for the Ben route at least. Yeah. I had a exact picture of what I wanted it to happen.
Right.
And I was one of the early people who asked for assets, so it kind of just a lot of those assets got taken up first. And then
you asked for like 6 different cop killers for some reason.
Yeah. And so like it was just like all of those ended up coming their way, but like it felt really weird, like even during that process, because I was just like, I have too much power here. I can just ask for like this art and someone will make it. Like what? Like why do I get that? Like
I mean, yeah, that's. I was looking at. I watched some. I think Pantsu playing Digi's route and seeing a lot of spectacle, a lot of cool shit happen to Digi's route, and it was glorious. Whereas others are more down to earth, but I mean, it certainly worked for what it was. Mage's route has a lot of cool shit going on. Obviously,
Nate, did you finish like streaming yours, Nate?
I have not. I think I'm gonna do it next time, but I'm not decided.
I was gonna say like the ending of the Nate route has like very deep sort of undertones, like very like very very
It did seem very thought-provoking. I saw much of the ending of it, but I'll get there soon. I was gonna ask about the whole like combining different routes and trying to attach to a cohesive lore and the game. I was going to ask if I forgive me for my ignorance on this, but like it seems to me like most of these end with like RadCon happening, or like which I think is a correlate for the prom, if I understand correctly.
Rad prom,
yeah.
Rad prom. Are they all like intentionally supposed to end on that? And do they all end intentionally?
A lot of fiction novels and
or graduation or something.
Yeah, something big like that.
So
they
the
don't
original plan, the original plan back when this was more of a stats and money and simulation thing. The idea was that the game would end when prom came along, and if you'd seduced anyone, then you'd go to prom with them. And then when it turned into a more of a straight visual novel, we just decided most of the routes are probably going to end at prom. So that was just a general guideline.
Okay, that's cool. I was curious about that. Was there much to worry about in terms of like keeping lore consistent? Because some of these things, as you said, they're all very independent, or many of them are, and spin off in totally different directions. So did there have to be a lot of policing of like the ideas outside of just like the assets that need to be produced, or like Nate wouldn't be at this time and place, so you can't have him in the scene. Ben is busy doing XYZ at this time on this day, so he can't be in here. Any of those kind of concerns come up in this?
One of the earliest ideas that we had, I think, is that, or at least I had in mind the whole time, was that the PCP University is kind of like a science fiction, like PCP in the future. They actually made PCP HQ real and made it a university, and it was my headcanon the whole time. And that's why in my backgrounds you see little details that suggest that this takes place in the future. Like that there's like a Digital list top 100 albums of 2025 or something.
I see. Okay.
Things
Okay.
but that wasn't really. I mean, it's kind of confusing, the whole game, as Gib has pointed out before, because some of the things that happen are more like prequel to PCP lore.
Yeah. I was wondering about that. Like, I could tell, like, with all of these different branching paths, not everything is going to be, like, cohesive as like one vision if there's so many different writers. So I don't really mind, but like I could definitely see that some people were thinking of it as like before and some were thinking after.
Yeah, like it ended up just being like an alternate timeline, just like another like an alternate version of the PCP. So like
the fact
it,
that like
it didn't
many
end
of us
up
are teachers, but Gib is a student. I mean, yeah, that's just
like it ended up just being like we kind of wanted to have the freedom to kind of just do whatever for anyone to do whatever. So we kind of just left it kind of vague as to what exactly. Yeah.
Agreed.
With the rough drafts of the routes, there were also some stuff to figure out about what information PCP Guy does or does not have at certain points, because we wrote routes that preceded scenes that preceded other scenes by other people. So I think there was an issue where PCP Guy didn't know at some point in the Nate route that Tom was living in his car, which he should canonically know at that point. So yeah, we mostly worked those kinks out. There was a longer discussion about whether PCP had or had not read Homestuck.
Right.
I think he tried and failed in my headcanon, but that's...
I don't think he can read.
Right.
No, he can read, but he just doesn't want to.
He's post-book. He's post-text. YouTube videos are the sole consumptive
He's post-knowledge.
Right.
It was also a long discussion of what gender PCP Guy has.
Yeah. So originally it was going to be like you could choose, but then it just ended up being it's just PCP Guy.
Yeah, no. First we wanted to have intro lady and PCP Guy, which was intro lady from the PCP intro that you guys had for like half a year.
that
intro lady. What is the lady saying
the longer version of like.
It's so addictive, right?
Right.
That didn't end up happening, and that's kind of good that didn't end up happening, because that opening's not even used anymore.
That's
I think what happened
I mean, if
I
it was
like
up to
PCP
me,
Guy.
PCP Guy, I think, sure, the term is guy, but guy is a fairly gender-neutral term, and it's such an indistinct blob of indecisiveness and character potential, but no actualization. I think you could totally project basically anything onto it that you want, and thus is the perfect... He simply represents one character trait, and that is procrastination. And everything else can be shaped from that Play-Doh mold.
The name placeholder in the script is just PCPG. So my personal headcanon is that they're gay in every single route. So it's PCP gal in Mage's and this War's route, PCP guy in most of the others, and I don't know, PCP gender, whatever the fucking Digi's route.
Yeah.
There are enough words starting with G. Nobody knows what the abbreviation is for.
Excellent.
Nor should they.
I love it.
I think the main thing that happened was that people started requesting art of the PCP guy, so the PCP guy just started showing up in all the scenes, like visually, as part of the art assets. So at that point, we can't go back, like canonically. Okay, now he is a guy, and he is this specific guy. So that's kind of what messed some things up a bit.
Yeah, I want to ask about that part of the story. At what point was it decided, and I don't know, like who did it or whatever, to like be the PCP guy and make that the player avatar? Maybe you just summed it up, but is there any more to the story?
I think that was basically decided like right at the beginning when we were first conceptualizing everything.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it was like one of the earliest things, I think. Who was just like, who would be a player character? And it would be like, a generic like thing. And it would be like, oh yeah, PCV guy, sure, perfect. It fits right in.
It's smart.
That makes so much sense. Speaking of art assets and writing, I was in the lucky position that I was writing the route and also drawing, so I could I was the most powerful in the whole world. I can't write that well. That's why the mage route is kind of the shortest and like sparsest in dialogue. We actually had a stat somewhere that showed like the relation of how much all the characters speak in their routes.
Oh
And
yeah,
it's-
I made some graphs at some point.
it correlated perfectly with how much like the PCP members speak on the podcast.
I was gonna say I've got to
Oh,
be the
no.
top.
I want to see that
number
graph.
one.
Do you have it?
Oh, wait a sec. I can probably
There's so much
link it.
fucking Nate dialogue in the Nate rap. Jesus Christ, Nate, shut the fuck up. Nobody cares.
Just
I
like
have
in the
a question.
podcast.
I have a question about my route. Just the inclusion of Endless War in Mages, and that sort of confused me as to why, at what point it was decided to have Endless War there.
Okay, that was just okay. I wanted all that lethal mage and Violet Violence backstory stuff in there,
Mhm.
and basically there was this time where there was this server war of the PCP servers, and you were always like a pacifist in that one, and like I'm not gonna fight. We're peaceful. We're purple peaceful people, and also there was on the podcast just a few times where like Ben or Munchie would try to convince you to join Endless War, and
Sure.
that was that inspired kind of my idea of having Endless War and Ben like also convincing you in the game to join it, and the idea is just that you can choose the right way and use the peaceful way, and in the end you don't get mate in the end, because I thought it would be a little weird to have that romantic option there. Instead you get Endless War, and that's a secret Endless War date ending.
I was
Also hear
looking
my
for
voice
that.
in-
I'm happy I found it.
Yeah. Because
Okay, I
when I
see.
was writing the Endless War route, I didn't like it felt because like Endless War, I wrote her to be like this, hard character. She clearly knows like a Kanamori, like the from Aizuken, like clearly that, and like a romance option at the end of that felt like weird because like she was like kind of ordering you around. It would have probably been fine, but I had like this kind of this ending of like the what ended up being the ending. It felt like it didn't really fit there. So I was kind of happy that like Neverpaint decided to have that at the end of the mage route, because I was like, okay, that's the kind of the honey is being taken care of. Like if you want the good stuff, you go there. But if you like, I wrote this whole entire other thing.
I mean, I kind
if
of
you
like
wanted to.
how like the Endless War route, like you're basically like choosing to be a slave of Endless War. Obviously, that's not going to result in her liking you. But she does do when she gets what she wants and becomes an obelisk. She does the big coom face, and she cooms live on stream. And
by the way, Endless War was also drawn by Drakaya, who made a lot of the backgrounds. She drew Endless War, Code Corona, and Asumi.
Yes.
Oh yeah, the Azumi. Very short. I assume she's only in that one dream, like you are like brain damaged scene.
Only in the severe brain damage end.
Oh God, that's another thing with Drakaya's art. Drakaya always made like a ton of assets for all the characters. They have like way more expressions than all of the other characters, and we didn't even end up using a lot of it because like Asumi was only like a side character. But yeah. Just wanted
Sell it as an asset book. Put it on a
maybe
that's
a
PDF. But how do I open PDF? I'll just never.
I have no idea.
Double click really fast.
No, and the whole flashback sequence in the mage route was kind of, there was a collaboration between Asha and me, and it's kind of the artistic thing I'm the most proud of.
It was really good. I really liked that.
I'm
Such
glad.
a good job.
I'm glad because if you guys maybe remember, my first PCP fan art was actually a lethal feral mage
I do remember.
artwork.
I believe I remember that well. Yeah.
You recently reblogged it, I think.
Yeah, and that was like the first time that I made art for this podcast, and I just wanted to like bring this like full circle and make like a whole story out of that feral mage Lithuania
It's
war
also
stuff.
how you knew who I was.
Yeah, that's
Now you know
true
my
because
name.
we were both featured on that podcast. Because you also drew a lethal mage. No, feral mage. Yeah, and
Violent
then
violence.
I'm drawing that stuff together, and Asha made that wonderful animation at the end of the mage route. Which is sick.
I like
Damn, I gotta check
the
out this
lethal.
mage route.
Yeah, the lethal end is really cool. I like it.
It annoys me in like all the live streams. Everyone is like, dreams. Oh no, not play mage route. No, it's like the best artworks.
Speaking of dreams, I kind of wish that dreams did came back in the happy end. Just I don't know, like they could have went on like dream adventures or something like that. Would have been
Could have
cute.
been an idea.
Gotta
but
wake
yeah.
up to the real world, mage. Dreams are an
No.
illusion.
But if we share the dream, is it really a dream?
That's a good question. Is anything real? We all know that the reality around us is simply a
You know-
projection of the electromagnetic forces that exist in the world. Nothing is real. Also, it could be a simulation.
You know, in
So
my
who's to
route, the Gwulfbin and Endless War, love square, love triangle thing with Gib. I really like that as like an idea. I'm just, I just really like
You
it.
did say before that you loved that part.
I'm sorry. I'm really sorry.
It was so interesting. It was like, oh my god, this game's really good. Is this gonna be like intrigue, like choices, like you have to try and like the idea when I first got to that part where the idea of like the girl who looks like Vriska but is not, who is really nice, who's the perfect match for the Gib character, and it's all like perfect for him, and you have to choose to like either ruin his life and then steal him away from her, or you know, let him be with her, or like that was like an interesting idea, and didn't come back. I'll never forgive you.
Yeah.
Can she give you the dick flattenings you need? No, only I, PCP guy, can satisfy.
Well, I mean, you know, people can write their own fan fictions about that, you know?
I was thinking about that. I was thinking about like making, like literally, like learning how to make the PCP dating sim, just doing the Gib route.
I mean, the assets exist, so
That's true.
I actually thought about several times like redoing some of the assets, but I was like, no. I spent 1.5 years on this game. I won't do
I'll
anything
have to
more.
draw backgrounds or something. I'll just get like Google images. We go to France. There's the Eiffel Tower.
James here is saying that he's the one who came up with the Endless War as Gibbs' old GF gimmick. So kudos. Well done, James.
Two wolves fighting within me. One is very glad that this is over. The other really wants to write Carcast DLC.
Do Carcast DLC, man.
Do
Mage
DLC.
would Michelle
The
love
only
that.
thing I got unilateral praise for is the Michelle writing in my round.
Michelle was
Everyone,
great.
including Michelle, absolutely loves how she's been depicted. Except, interestingly enough, in the Nate route, which isn't bad. It simply is, as Michelle lovingly refers to it, the cuck route for Michelle.
That's not Michelle. That's Dream Michelle. That's
We all
different.
know it's Dream Michelle, but nonetheless.
By the way,
you
it's
know,
not Michelle at all. It's Meme Shell.
Oh yeah, the asset
That's
is called
true.
Meme Shell.
Oh yeah, I
That's
did
true.
that.
Maybe it just
Asha
literally.
just decided to call it Meme Shell instead. Like May was May, Cassie was Cassie, but Michelle was Meme Shell.
Well, I've always thought that like if there was any actual attempt to put like I don't think Nate and Michelle exist on screen at all, which is good because it would be very weird considering I'm gonna dump that hoe any one of these days now to try to you know paint us as any kind of like couple or anything. She's on thin ice, let me tell you.
All right. I don't want to shit on Rorista too much.
No, go ahead.
But
I'll be right back.
I did like the Devu route. The Devu route was like very strange and weird and very Devu.
Thanks. Yeah, Devu is fucking hard to write.
He's so strange in this dating sim as like a person, and it's like, oh, that's true. That's actually accurate.
Yeah, I remember when I was proofreading
Wait, didn't you want
the
to shit
Devu
on me?
route, just everything just coming at you all at once. It's just like, yeah, this is just so totally Devu.
And like
Wonder
the
what
idea
he
that
thinks.
you, as the PCP guy, like, depending on what route you take, you, as the PCP guy, sort of fit into whatever, character archetype would fit with that person. So on the
Yeah.
Devu route, you are thinking at 1,000 miles an hour just like him, and I'm like, that's what, huh?
Yeah, and in the Tom route, you're just doing a Market How Do. You're just the co-host of Market How Do. That is Tom route.
Yeah,
like
makes so much sense.
The whole thing about like my Gib route and that wasted potential, it's not a big deal. I just I keep saying it. So don't think that I hate the whole thing. I don't want people to think I hate anything. In fact,
we get
it's
it.
great.
Like, I think it's kind of a humble brag to say, hey, I'm too cute and too attractive in this game. But hey.
No, wait. No,
I get what you mean.
I'm not.
Just kidding.
I don't complain about being too cute and attractive. Maybe too cute, but that's just a real life thing. I don't like how cute I am. People say, "Oh, that's nice. You're cute," and I'm like, "Fuck, die! I'm supposed to be cool. I'm supposed to be like a biker or something." And then they laugh. They throw their head back and laugh. That's impossible, they say.
Get
and
a
I
bike.
kill them.
That's the solution.
When we do DLC, we'll get unlockable outfits and you can give a leather vest or something. And a motorcycle.
DLC is a big thing. Don't feel like you need to do that.
No,
I'm sure all of you would never want to touch any sort of thing like this ever again.
And speaking of things that
probably.
what we could have and should have done, looking at the list of characters that we have in the game, I'm kind of sad that some of the characters that should really be in aren't in. Like, for example, Victor isn't in the game, or Austin Huxtable.
That was Victor was one of the ideas we had for a mini route, but now I kind of regret that it isn't. But
we have so many weird side people, all these RCK people, and all this stuff that nobody knows. But we could have done more. But at the same time, we already did way too much.
You can't spend too much time being upset. I mean, I'm not saying you are, but worrying about what didn't get in when it's such an amazing accomplishment for this to even exist at all.
Sure.
Of course.
I mean, at the end of the day, Jeff made it in, so it's all good.
Yeah.
Hey, Jeff.
Finally.
Yeah.
Oh, Jeff. Speaking of Jeff, I have a story for that. Okay.
Yes. Do you want to tell it?
Jeff, do you want to tell it, or should I?
I mean, we were basically Neverpaint, I and two other friends were hanging out together during Christmas, and Jeff was just the product of two of our friends, Alex and Graf, and one of their brothers, drawing it all together throughout one day.
Noodlebomb also worked on it.
Oh, did he? Oh, he did. Okay.
And Noodlebomb just made the head, I think.
Oh my god. But yeah,
so he's the only art asset, the only character art that was worked on by 3 people.
Was who? Sorry, who's the character worked on by 3 people?
Jeff Fu.
Oh yeah, of course. Right. The beauty.
No, he was very important to all of us. Yeah, there's kind of a theme that I had always in mind for the whole thing, that the dating sim is basically a reflection of all the history of the podcast. So basically all of it is in, and even members that aren't a part of it anymore, because they're all part of a narrative in the end.
Indeed. I was very glad to see that you guys didn't think you had to limit yourself to current active members, because that would have been dumb. It's about the legacy, and you.
I'm just gonna scrap the Devou route.
Yeah, let's scrap pages of writing. Who needs that?
Well, I mean, I do have one.
Connie's great artwork.
I had one topic that I think you guys had lots to talk about, which was just, I mean, feel free to discuss anything you want, but there was discussive how many times the project almost died, and I assume there are many stories of this, and I would love to hear any and all of them.
Basically, every time a writer dropped out and said they were working on it for a few months, and then nothing was there.
When people dropped out like that, do they do you the courtesy? And again, these people are working for free. They don't owe anybody anything. But of course, it's frustrating. Do they give you the assets first, or do they simply leave and take all they got with them?
like most of the time they didn't really do much. Like they did very minimal amounts of
Sure.
stuff in terms of the writing.
That's gonna be
But I
most
think
people, yeah.
most of them they dropped out silently. That was
right.
they didn't announce
Lost it
anything. They just
or-
they stopped posting in the channel, and we added at them, and they didn't reply, and so we were just like, I guess they're not on anymore.
Right.
Okay. So, and that was the really hard part because we didn't really know what like we needed, like maybe they might come back, and if they didn't come back, like I mean, what do we do now, kind of a thing. So it was just like every time that happened, there was like a big like morale loss about of all people
This was
because
sad.
The game took
everyone was
about
just
18 months to get done, right? Is that roughly accurate?
Yeah.
I'm just if you think if there was some sort of like, again, the PCB also lacks this, but if there was like an organizational system in place and like you knew who was active, and if people at least cut and told you, then like that would have been, you could have moved on and done things. Do you how much time and energy do you think something like that would have saved theoretically versus all the pain of not knowing, which I certainly understand?
Well,
would that
we
have like a big
did
change?
ping
I think
them
saves a lot
multiple
of
times
effort.
and asked if they're still doing anything, and they
Yeah.
just didn't reply.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Same could say because it was also a side project for most of us most of the time.
Sure.
Because most of us have other stuff and like a university or school or whatever. So yeah, it was always going to be a long project, but it definitely didn't help that some people just dropped out. And there's always like, oh, are we doing something? Are we not doing something? Guess we wait. Guess we message a few times, and then a few weeks have passed, and nothing's done.
Yeah, I think the main thing was that it wasn't 18 months of constant work on the project. Most of the people that worked on this, we worked on it in bursts whenever we felt like the inspiration or the passion to work on the project. Some people would join and never get that burst and then leave. And during the end of the project is finally when I think the directors got shit a little bit more scheduled and a little bit more set in stone. There were finally concrete deadlines that had to be met, and that's what made everybody sort of like take that push together, take that final like burst, that final crunch. So in actuality, I think that most of the development happened in the last 3 months or so. Whereas
Say that 3 or 4 months, especially in like November, December, I was the one like messaging all the artists like every week, writing 50 DMs because I found out like adding people in a Discord server is not as effective as sending a DM.
Damn right.
And just managing all the art assets that weren't done yet. And then everything got done. But at least, okay, we had that deadline for all art assets to be finished by the end of the year. And I also had this real life meetup with James Torbert and some of our other friends, and we basically did this stuff. We have like this internet friend group. We have like a little podcast, and we meet sometimes. And during that Christmas, New Year's meetup, I was just most of the time sitting in another room, just like editing scripts or like editing art assets together. And I was like, need to get this done.
I was like, Narapain, do you want to watch this movie with us? He would be like, maybe. Keeps working on the dating sim. But you did good. You did a good job.
That's what it takes. It takes a true warrior to get it done.
And what you were saying there about like editing art assets together, that is probably what I spent 90% of development time on, is just like dragging art assets into a program, resizing them, scaling them all to the right size, exporting them, and then saving them to a new folder.
If you work with like 30 artists, they're not all gonna use the same format or even like the same way of layering faces and bodies. And I mean, it should have. The whole project would have needed a lot of more art direction in the beginning. A lot more concrete plans.
But you guys are like first timers, right? That's growing pains, of course.
Yeah.
If and when perhaps you do anything else, I'm sure a lot would be learned.
Oh, I'd love to do more game development. I mean, I basically became a graphic designer to learn how to do video game UIs. That was my main inspiration. So the fact that I could learn to do my first video game UI through this made me believe that I could make it. You know, that I could actually become what he wanted to become.
I know,
definitely
right?
want to do more.
I was gonna ask. I was just curious. Maybe this is more accurate for like the guys who were doing it long term, and it sounds like the most dedicated time, like work was done in like a 3-month period. I was curious, like, since this is all done for free, you guys just volunteered your time and energy to do it, and your skills and whatnot. How much did that impact your kind of day-to-day life as you were going it? I mean, who was it? It was James. No, the programmer. Who was the programmer again? Mosfet, of course, right. He said that like he spent like 9 days just like dedicatedly working. So for him, sounds like a big life commitment for a relatively short period of time.
Just
How about for the rest of you?
I have a good
Was it
story
like
about this actually.
Yeah. What do you
so
think?
I had this class as part of all about publicity and advertisement design, and we did a lot of animation and video editing for that class. And the final project for that class was a free topic to choose individually. So I decided to just do a little chronicle of the dating sims development, as well as my involvement with the game. And I showed a bunch of the assets, as well as making that little promo video that you guys posted on your channel as part of my final project for that subject.
Oh, so you made that. It looked great. That was a wonderful little video.
Thank you. I'm also known as Lemontard online. You might recognize that name.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. I changed it to my real name after a bit of a rebranding. But anyway, to get to the point, I got a really, really good grade in that class just by making a project all about the game. I would share the actual project.
You're welcome.
But it's all in Spanish, so I'm not sure if anybody would want to read that.
Are you Spanish? I'm just curious if you're from like Mexico or Spain or something.
I'm from Spain. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool.
Most of the developers are European, actually, or not American, I should say.
Sorry, I preach my own.
Disgusting.
I knew that one had to explain to me what a 7-Eleven was in the first.
It's the little brother of 9/11, of course. You know.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I didn't get that whole meme. 7-Eleven. And actually, when I went to New York last year, I actually went to a 7-Eleven just for the meme. And I got a pizza slice. It was disgusting.
Got a bang energy.
That was a mistake.
Yeah.
Pizza and 7-Eleven.
Because I was hungry and it was like the cheapest pizza around.
Fair.
Well, how about you, Chips? As the lead from the very start, so like, how much of your time did this take up as you were going through the process? Did this impact your life in a significant way? Did you have to like spend a lot of time? Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. So when the project started, I had a day job. I don't anymore, but that's a whole other thing. And yeah, so that was taking up quite a bit of my time. On top of that, then just working on the game took up basically all of my free time. Until then, I started a podcast of my own, and that significantly slowed down my work on the game.
Sure.
But yeah, for a period of probably about 9 months, it was just work on the podcast, work on the game, work on the podcast, work on the game, and just nothing in between.
Impressive.
Yeah, it's kind of similar to me, my university stuff, especially in the last few months. I mean, I do other art stuff. I try to work on comics and just like illustrations. And that I just made like a hard cut last November. I decided, no, dating sim is my main project now. I have to finish this or I will hate myself forever.
Yeah.
And it worked out.
It's something definitely to be proud of, to have not only done all the work, but like semi-organized, or to get all these people together to make it work.
Hey,
It's actually being finished and good.
Oh yeah,
it's been like 9 or 10 days now, right? I'm curious. Do you guys have any metrics on maybe like how many downloads you've had, or how interest, or is the reaction perhaps? Are you happy with it? Is it more or less than you expected?
I mean,
do you have some demographic?
I don't have any demographics on it. I don't think itch really provides much in the way of that. But in terms of like actual feedback, people live streaming it, people just giving us nice comments, the reaction's been overwhelming. Like, it's way better than I hoped.
Reddit didn't seem to get it from the comments I saw.
That's true. Yeah.
Reddit doesn't get anything.
Oh yeah, Reddit was really funny. Why would you dedicate 2 years of your life to making?
Because it taught me how to believe in myself and be the person who I want to be.
Baby. Internet celebrities. Who cares?
Reddit sucks, but PCP fans love it, and that's all we could hope for.
I mean, that's
what's Reddit saying? Sorry, did I miss that? Did they fucking hate it? They think it's some bullshit?
they're just confused why we even did it.
Okay, sure. That's understandable.
I mean,
That's a
it's
valid
fair.
response.
It's fair, but like, I mean, come on, like, clearly we're fans of this thing. It shouldn't be
just
too
don't
hard
know.
to kind of, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we always say on the PCP like how insular the show is. Like, there's no biggest problem in the universe. Like, you listen for a reason. You just find yourself there one day and wonder, how did I get here?
Yeah. Okay, I've got it here. The game has been downloaded 800 times.
Whoa, hey, not bad.
Oh,
not bad.
that's a lot.
On the topic of it being very well received, on the day of release, me and Mosfet were in a voice call on a Discord, and Clara, the person who was the first to get all the endings and rate them, hopped in there like sobbing and telling us how much she loved the game.
That's amazing.
Moment of all.
Hey, Oblivion here just posted the Bandcamp statistics for the total plays of the soundtrack are 608. For some fucking reason, Michelle's theme is like far and away the most popular song that's been played.
I think she posted it on Twitter is the reason. I think she posted that link on Twitter.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And the main menu, and then the class of Simple and Clean. Maybe because like these have been the ones that have been discussed the most or something. Life and Endless War. Cool.
It also makes me think that maybe like having someone's name and having them say, "Oh, Michelle's theme," and that like really piques people's interest. Maybe
you know,
makes me think that maybe we should have everyone had a theme like, "Oh, Nate's theme, Digi's theme," and maybe that would have been especially interesting for people.
We did certainly find it interesting that of all characters, only Michelle had a dedicated Michelle theme. Of all people,
there's also Misato's theme.
Oh, that's true. She isn't a particularly prominent character, but true. God, so many fucking sick songs. Yeah.
The whole project is a super time and place thing, but you know, I mean, I always, personally, to me, I always think about this. The PCP is kind of what MLP was to you guys back then.
Yeah,
it's kind of this.
Yeah,
it's
just
that,
as what
if not more.
If not more, yeah.
And just this, like, we make like this whole giant derivative fan project just to like flex our skills and see what we can actually achieve, and then can move on to like our own stuff, and see that we actually can finish a big project.
You're forging friendships, making your own little future PCPs.
You know, I forget what episode of the PCP it was. Was it Effort? I can't remember, but it was an episode where we start with the intro and the main discussion was about, remember that one guy who was made fun of, and some of us, especially me, as I recall, was defending, who was like grinding for a shiny ponyta for like an incredibly long time. And then he finally got one and he spazzed out on like live stream or whatever, and everybody made fun of him. But we were just like, I mean, I at least was saying, no, you're wrong. This man is a fucking hero because he dedicated himself to his craft. Like, why the fuck do we care that LeBron James can dunk a fucking basketball? Because we've set the parameters of the game and he has chosen to excel. Also, he's a gigantic freak. But aside from that, he just happens to be the greatest of all time or whatever. He's the fucking Tom Brady. These people just dedicated themselves to something. And we celebrate not the particular ability to get the ball through the sport hole. We celebrate the dedication to the craft and the chosen excellence that has been refined and carved out of the uncomfortable block of marble, because man is both the carver and the subject. That's a transformation is pain. And you guys have carved out of your own block of marble this fucking monstrous project of this dating simulator. And even if fucking Reddit doesn't give a shit, even if it was bad, no matter what the fuck, it's fucking incredible to just produce something at the end of the day when all these other Tom, Dick, and fucking Harrys ain't doing jack shit with their life. So it's fucking awesome. And you don't need me to tell you that. You already know. And it's fucking base
We
as
had
hell.
this discussion in the Discord that we build a giant fucking monument to something no one cares about. This is the head of Ozymandias staring down wayward travelers, and no one will ever give a shit.
I'm watching the rotating
Dude, I love
head of the
Breaking Bad.
PCP guy. It's like the head of Ozymandias rotating in the fucking dating sim video right now. What it is.
Nate,
Hey,
the
by
fact
the
that
way,
we got a
that
rant like
video
that from
is
you
so fucking
is the best
slick.
present.
Was that you, Oblivion? I think you made that, right?
That was
Okay, well,
Oblivion.
Oblivion's not in the call right now. It is so awesome. Smearg made the head, the rotating head, right? But So
Smeek
fucking,
was the
how the
one
fuck?
who finally came in and drew Ben after no one wanted to do it
Yeah,
for like
no
a year.
Oh yes, Ben was the least wanted. That makes me happy.
Oh,
Hey,
but
can we-
his
can we
sprite
bring
came out
Oblivion
like,
in?
but his sprite is the best one though.
Exactly.
It
yeah,
is really
yeah.
good. It is really good. Can we bring Oblivion in here just for a minute? I would love to hear, like, goddamn, like the timing of getting your animation for each of these songs. I mean, I could see how it could be done, but Jesus Christ, does it seem like a fucking headache to actually sit down and produce this? But I guess that's what animation is, huh?
It was, let's see, making I guess the UI for it, quote unquote, took a little bit.
Yeah.
Like which part of the animation like are you referencing in terms
Honestly,
of like timing
just
and
the
stuff?
tracking bar and how the thing like has a beautiful little animation that resets every time there's a new song. It slowly fills up.
The tracking bar is just two images.
Yeah.
That it's just in After Effects. There's a beginning keyframe and an ending keyframe.
Yeah.
And I copy paste those for each song, and then I just adjust the position so that it like resets like right before. So all I had to do was animate it once, you know, the bar filling up and then going back. And there's like I did a custom easing curve in After Effects, and I just copy pasted those frames and positioned them a bunch of times. Swapping out the
okay,
icon,
well, there's also the fact that I just got to the part in the fucking song where it goes full sicko mode through the fire and the flames. It gets completely fucked up. So that's all good shit too.
I've had that in my mind since the demo. Like I wanted to, as part of marketing, I never got around to this. I wanted to make a video called "What Happens If You Stay on the Main Menu for the PCP Dating Sim Too Long," and I was gonna do all of those effects just to the main menu. Well, the cool thing is I could do it. Because I rendered the video first, and then afterwards I put the rendered file in After Effects and I set up all the layers and stuff. I could just swap out the source.
Yeah.
Yep, I could just swap out the source video and it would work exactly the same.
You know, that would be sick. I was just
give you-
thinking
yeah.
of asking you or just doing it on my own, I don't know, of just uploading
I
the
certainly
main
could.
theme song. Because like, having the whole soundtrack
Sure.
here is great, but like people are more likely to click on probably an individual song.
I mean, sure. I could make that. It would just be like swapping out one file and maybe adjusting a few parameters. It would be cool. That was just
People need to
like
hear
simple stuff. I think I used the wave warp effect to make it all glitchy, and I put like a TV static effect on it with like a red color filter and just messing with hue and saturation sliders and stuff. And
These are the kind of
inverting the
effects that I
colors and-
always think that I'm going to put in videos, and then I'm like, that's too much fucking. I'm just. I'll just
was
slap
a
on
lot
some
of work.
sharpening effects and put like 10 of those on. That'll do it.
I did have to pull an all-nighter for that. I actually pulled 2 all-nighters back to back to get
Classic
the
Oblivion.
soundtrack video out. Well, I mean I just torture myself forever.
The thing is, it would probably be easier if you like had worked more consistently on the game throughout the time, but you always just show up and do tons of stuff in a very short time.
That's kind of how I am, because at any given time I have a million projects that all have tight deadlines, and I have to like try and finish one before the other one. It was that was the issue when I was editing the PCP, as I was basically pulling an all-nighter, sometimes 2 every single week. Because Pencilmation has strict deadlines, and then I have extra deadlines. There's too much responsibility for me to handle at once, and it actually like mentally and also my physical health was deteriorating very fast in the last like month of PCP editing. It was like catching up to me, and it was killing me, and I had to stop.
You made the right decision to stop.
And immediately,
So if we didn't fire you, you wouldn't have been alive. You would have died.
Well, he asked to. He asked.
I sort of.
If we hadn't killed you ourselves.
True. I mean, I remember resigning, but I think you probably did kill me in real life.
Oh no.
But no, my health, like immediately after that, I like got a whole bunch of stuff done, and I caught up on work, and I'm like, okay, I guess this
And
is
for the
fine.
record, Eleazar has been doing a great job. Shout out to our boy.
Eleazar is a Chad. I gave him my After Effects files. I'm like, here's how the intro works. You have to like swap out these assets every time, and he's like, I've never really used After Effects before, but he did good. He learned how to do the things I did.
Yep.
Just
His
the
basic
same.
brain function, and so you can figure it out. Not to slight against him, I'm just saying human beings are capable of cool stuff. People like making a dating sim.
I'm really proud of Eleazar. I was scared to listen to a podcast for like a month after I left. I'm like, oh no, what if it's not the same? Oh no, I'm gonna be sad. I'm gonna wish that I edited this episode. And for a while I did. I actually felt kind of sad. I'm like, oh, I miss doing this. But also, it was killing me. I couldn't do it.
You were missed.
Yeah.
Speaking of, because it was mentioned before, speaking of friendships that formed out of dating sim production, actually met some of my best friends working on the dating sim,
Yay.
like Asha and James, and also Noodlebomb. And
Did
we
the
formed.
Sketchy People podcast come out of your interactions through that?
Well, yeah, indirectly. The Sketchy People podcast formed out of this and like a bunch of other people in Noodlebomb server actually, just wanting to make like an art-focused weekly hanging out podcast.
We were all talking. I basically said, wouldn't it be funny if we had a podcast and then Nerpane made a server with like the 6 people that were having that conversation at the time, 6 or 7. And it actually became real, and now we've been doing it for more than half a year.
Honestly, it makes me so happy to hear you guys like made friends and made stuff together. That's so cute. I'm so happy.
It's fantastic. It's changed my life to see these guys in person after like we met at the end of summer and during Christmas. It was fantastic.
I'm so happy for you guys.
Curiosity. Where'd you guys meet? Was it in America somewhere?
No. Well, I'm Spanish. 2 of them are German. 1 of them is Austrian. So we met over at Germany and Austria.
Cool.
We also hope to unite with our American members soon.
At some point. And Canadian.
Oh, so no Americans came?
Yeah, it was just we don't have like a huge fan base that can like fund thousands of dollars to go to flyer.
Hey man, we've taken a loss every time until now. This is the first time, and all of a sudden,
quick to defend.
Sure.
I am very defensive.
No, we're in a really international group. We have like Canadian and Argentinian and US American. So it would be hard to get us all together.
Sure.
But yeah, that's kind of.
Seika's in Argentina, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, she is.
May have known her for like being a cool Twitter artist.
She's amazing.
Yeah. So that's kind of for me
if I have any more developer questions. Oh, you know, actually, scrolling back up a little bit, there was a mention. Mosfet here said about the almost died thing. Said something about Ugly Patch being a god. How that was like a story about how the project almost died.
That's kind of what I mentioned before. Is the moment where I was like, okay, I really want to be the background guy on this project, but at the same time, I know that I can't do it alone, and so I just messaged Ugly Patch and Rakaya and Asha again to just make the rest of the backgrounds, and especially Ugly Patch, amazing. Like all these, like dozens of CTs and all that stuff. Yeah, that's why I think I asked him like 2 times to do this, and he just did it both times. And I was like, okay, you get a special credit in the game.
He also did a lot of backgrounds for the Codcast dating sim.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Were you guys involved at all in that, in the Codcast dating sim?
I wanted to be, and then I didn't. But I got contacted for it, and I said, oh, I'll do the UI for that as well. And then I got swamped by work.
Let me see. I know Lumia, No Need Bruh, I know we're involved.
Yeah.
They also made the real PCP dating sim a year ago.
Exactly. Right, yeah.
It was right after that.
Completely separate from us.
Yeah, I know that both times, No Need Bruh messaged me and he says, hey, just to let you know, I'm doing something, and then just went quiet until it released.
That's what he does.
No connection.
So wait, what? The guys who worked on those things, were they like completely separate? There was no crossover at all?
Basically, yes. They were in our server, but never talked about it. The whole thing was just a joke, just a promotion thing.
They contracted certain like artists and things for the second one, I think. But apart from that, no connection.
Yeah,
excellent.
Funny, weird side
Chip,
thing.
small question. I'm looking at V right now. She's on screen. There she is. What's wrong with her like spine, with her waist there?
Okay, the problem is assuming she has a spine in the first place.
I see.
She looks good.
Aren't you a big One Piece fan?
That is basically
I
One Piece
am.
proportion,
I suppose.
more or less.
Well, all right. It just sort of looks like it goes in a lot on one side and not on the other. You know what I mean?
Okay, so the real reason for that is I was doodling in my sketchbook trying to think, how am I going to design V? It needs something that looks like Vriska, but also isn't Vriska. And just one of the sketches just happened to be really good, and I was like, that's the one. So I digitized it, and that became everything.
Nice.
Sick.
Dude, sick.
Chip's
He
drawings
is
all
based.
have like very crazy proportions and are
Yeah.
much more stylized than most of the other arts assets.
Munchie is just an egg.
I really like Munchie's design. It's perfectly Munchie. He's
Yeah,
huge.
it's fantastic.
He's got the big
Who did
face.
Munchies? Who's Munchies? Was that Asha?
No, that was
No, Chip.
Oh yeah. Okay. Based.
Very based.
Well, I mean, if you guys have any more questions, feel free. Personally, I mean, obviously I'm thrilled with the project. I've kind of got all the things I was mostly curious about off my chest now, which I was delighted to get a chance to do with you guys.
I think MOSFET's working with inconsistent asset names rant might be interesting, just from the programming perspective.
Yeah, I got him in here.
Yeah.
As a programmer, there's nothing more annoying than when you have not named like your objects correctly in your code, and you have to fucking piece together what fucking object is what. It's the most
Oh, fucking
stupid
god. Hey, what's the context? What am I being summoned for?
Asset
What was
naming
it? Something about
and
poorly
programming.
named assets or
Oh,
something?
Just infuriating shit you have to deal
Oh,
with.
man.
Immediately reacts.
So like that's just so like I said, like I worked for a wee while like as a game programmer, and this is like one of the eternal like game development studio like interactions is like artists being art people generally far more free flowing is like a cliche and whatever, and normally don't directly understand that that matters, and the programmers all being just fucking autists, and we're all just kind of like, no, you have to name them the same way. And it's definitely a thing that just made us like always flip our minds, and there was definitely like a fair bit of that in the project. Worse than the asset naming was, as was mentioned earlier, all of the characters, so a fair portion of the characters are just structured differently than the other ones.
Sure.
Like, and just not constructed the same way. And so that means that like for many of the characters, they have unique code to display just them. And it's horrifying. It's horrible.
Okay. Quick question: why not? I mean, I assume that's things like PNGs with like different varying amounts of empty space on the sides and shit like that. Why not just try to edit the assets themselves and then work around that? That would be my.
So a lot of that did happen. Like there was definitely like a lot of that. And mostly the main reason why was because, as I mentioned, I was doing this in like the last month, and I did not want to screw with things too much. There was definitely some awkwardness of like doing some interactions over Git. This is that fun element that like we have to remember as programmers, Nate, is that with some people on the project who are not primarily programmers, things like Git is already kind of confusing to many programmers. To non-programmers, it's totally mind-boggling, and they're like, how does this piece of magic software work? And so I was just like, I don't want to touch assets more than I have to, because it'll make everything so much harder to coordinate. If I can just fix it in code, that will actually be like
in fairness, that is the way easier thing that you of course want to do, so you don't have to fix that. Yeah, I get you.
Yeah, totally. Like it depended on the individual thing. Some things we definitely like, okay, we can mess with the art asset there, and other things are just like, I'm just gonna put in the unique code that handles just them. Other ones was like, or just small little quirks, like there's a pose of Ben where he's holding a pipe in his mouth.
God. Why did that happen?
Yeah. So here's the fun part about that. The characters, their body is supposed to be below their head, so you can just change the head in and out with their pose. But the hand, right? So
it's
the
so
hand
far
is
to the side. Yeah.
Yeah. And the hand is so there's the pose, there's the head, and then there's the above face layer, the AFL. And the hand is actually a separate graphic. Yeah, that's what they're called in the code.
I know. It's just awesome.
Yeah. And the hand is its own graphic that sits like above that, and so I had to put in code into the game such that when you use that pose, it knows, I have to go grab the hand AFL and just put it in there. And just a lot of things like that for ones that just had like weird additional quirks like that.
It would have been so easy to just have Ben pose where he doesn't hold the pipe over his face, but like slightly next to it. But that's kind of communication thing. We didn't even know that would be a problem.
It's kind of made all of the assets first and assumed the programmers could figure it out.
Which I mean,
what I did with UI. And
communication. Yeah, go ahead.
Just saying, like I mean, like we did. It just led to a lot of extra effort. But
tell me at least. Okay, if you got all Ben poses, please tell me they're called like Ben A, Ben B, Ben C. Please don't tell me it's stuff like Ben holding pipe, and then fucking
basically, badly. So the
you have like Ben Point, Ben Base, Ben Point, Ben Slouch, and Ben Down.
What a nightmare.
Yeah. So the general rule was like in the scripting for the game, you had to refer to something which was like a part of the actual PNG name. So if the PNG was called Ben Point, then you could refer to that with point as like the pose like label that you used, which led to lots of confusion for the writers because different characters like. Why do I use this term here for this character and this other term for this other character? And it's like because it was just the name of the goddamn essay, and that was literally it. And it was in that stage of like, but don't want to change it too much right now, so we're just going to go through. There was definitely a lot of times where I would have to explain sometimes to the script writers, like here's how you need to specifically word this thing in order for that feature to work. Like here's the specific way you need to refer to that character or whatever. Like just weird quirks of like the command system for things like telling characters to leave off of stage did not like it assumed that spaces would be used as the separator between parameters on it. And Endless War has a space in her name. And it's kind of like, oh, for fuck's sake. And it's kind of like, do I want to go through and change everywhere this command is used? So no, we didn't. Instead, I just handled it. But if you use a character's name without a space in the name, it'll figure it out. And so then, I had to communicate that. Like, okay, if you want to use the Endless War leaves command, you have to not put a space in her name and blah, 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 blah. Communication is definitely one of the things that I imagine most people on the project learned the importance of, but there was definitely a lot of pain points that came from just people, never having done something like this, never knowing what kind of confusions could come up. Communication is hard.
Yep.
This is why we need a producer.
Yeah, if I can take credit for ensuring that all the music and voices had consistent naming conventions from the start.
Hilariously, I think the last voice or something, there was one voice right at the end, where the last 3 ones you did had like a slightly different element of like, it was one which where it had a space, you put no character, when previously they all had hyphens or something like that. There was like the very last one. So there's like one voice character who has a unique role.
Oh no.
But hey, let's talk more about the voices that were just coming up, the way they're implemented and the impetus for them. So first of all, whose idea was to put the little Homestuck-esque, or not Homestuck, Undertale-esque?
All of
yeah, that was me from the start. I wanted to do that early on, and I had a unique opportunity to do it because I edited a couple of PCP episodes. I had like hours upon hours of tracks of you individually talking by yourself, so it was very easy for me to source. Yeah, I had a lot of opportunities to grab things, and for the most part, it was just like general stuff. There's a few specific references that I'd like to highlight. For example, I have them open, and thanks to Voice Meter, I can just straight up do this. So, Action Giraffe. That is you, Nate, when you were telling your story about the roller coaster and you were like screaming and singing at the end of that. That's where that was sampled from, actually.
Oh yeah, can you tell us all the samples?
All of them?
Well,
that'd be fun
well, for me at least.
I'll go through. I mean, I can go through them all. There's how many of these? There's over 60 of them.
We can stick to the main boys if you want.
I'll just talk about the ones that are like particularly interesting. So 9/11.
Who's that?
I'll get to. That's 9/11. That is I sampled the plane actually hitting the Twin Towers in real life.
Yep.
I literally sampled it.
That physically hurts me.
I'm glad this is in the game.
I disavow, by the way. I disavow.
Of course, understandable.
Colt Corona. I mean, it's just Colt Corona screaming. I just like that it just sounds like literal noise.
Yeah. It's so funny when it pops in the screen. It's just like.
I like Devu. Is satisfying to listen to.
That sounds a lot like Devu. That's good. That's good.
Donatello and there's so many of Jesse screaming.
Donatello was perfect.
Yes.
Drug dealer in the game is Kirito. I actually sampled Kirito's voice.
Nice.
Jeff is Jeff, obviously.
Yep.
Endless War is Asuka from End of Evangelion. I think it's when she's getting fucked up around the middle point.
she's
screaming.
That does sound rough.
I think the source clip she's screaming in pain, but here she just sounds angry, which works well. George Bush, literally George Bush, no surprise. Gibbon, I think you made like a weird noise at the end of one of the episodes, and I sampled it.
One of his. Yep.
Gun Girl, literally guns, obviously. Scrolling down a bit more.
What am I from? I'm curious.
Your original voice, I just opened up a random episode and I just clicked around. What I would do is in Audacity, I would just open up. If I had the PCP episode, like if it was a character from an episode of a PCP, I'd just grab one of the episodes, drop it in, and I'd just scroll around and I'd highlight a section of about, I think like 50 to 60 milliseconds. And I'd just like move my cursor around and just hit play, like shift play, which loops it and see how it sounds. And I just kind of experimented until I found something that sounded like Nate or sounded like Gib. And I was able to do it for the most part. Sometimes like it's not super identifiable. It was kind of hit and miss.
Sure.
But some are really obvious. Like, I mean, that's obviously Mumpky Jones.
Obvious.
Digi was so obvious too when I heard it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Fof. I forget who was streaming who figured this one out. That's Yugi.
Right? I heard that before.
I think I
Yu-Gi-Oh.
figured that out.
Yes,
It's time to duel.
Time to duel.
The Egyptian thing.
Whose voice is it? Whose voice is it?
It's Yu-Gi-Oh.
Oh,
It's time to duel.
No, but like in the game.
Fof.
Thoth, which is an Egyptian god.
Oh, I get it.
Yeah, he's Egyptian, yeah. I made sure for Phantom Horn, I made sure I sampled actual Phantom Horn and not just Ben. I made sure to pull up an old PVAP.
That would have been
Phantom Horn is in the game.
Wait, Phantom Horn?
Yeah, Phantom
I
Horn.
don't think I saw Phantom Horn. Where is he?
Oh shit.
In the Jesse Rat.
Jesse Rat.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny because the game is just so big and none of us ever read all the scripts, like proofread all the scripts, we just divided it up. So I may have co-directed the game, but I don't know the full game.
Yeah, there are still routes I haven't seen at all.
By now I've finally read everything.
I hope that every single member involved with this this game individually disavows based on what other people has written through the game. So no one avows this game ultimately at the end of the day. That would be the ideal.
Yeah. My favorite one of all time, and this one took me like 40 minutes to make, was Azumi is in the game if you play your cards right, and Azumi's sword is also a character who talks.
Right.
And their voice is my favorite. I spent so much time putting this together.
I love it so much.
Ow!
Whoa.
Oh, that's great, but that's so painful.
It's just like one of my Age of Empires matches.
Maybe some of his sounds might actually be Age of Empires related. That was actually something about the music is I was using really old shitty software, and the percussion sounds, a lot of them are literally the same MIDI sounds from like Age of Empires 1, and I made sure to put a bunch of those noises in there because nostalgia is cool.
I like Age of Empires.
So do I. It's one of the few games I grew up with.
Same.
So cool.
I'm so grateful the voice. I'm so happy the voice clips got in because they were on the chopping block in that like last month Mad Dash of development. The general sentiment was like, if we don't have the time, we don't have the time, whatever. But I it wasn't that hard. I was kind of like, no, we'll definitely have the time. And I tried it out. And I like just clicking through the game, and I hear like Nate, and I'm just like, wow, that sounds so much like fucking Nate. And then I hear like action giraffe, and I'm immediately just like go to Discord. I'm like, no, we have to ship with these. This is too good.
Oh yeah,
we have to do it. And like
I forget who was arguing because when I first showed it off, the first person I did was Nate, and people were like, "It's too sharp, it's too ear grating." And I mean, I guess it's a bit sharper than the average one. There's like a sort of like sound in there. If you
I also thought in the very beginning that it would get too annoying, and some people had that opinion because.
If it was too loud, probably that would happen.
Yeah, just my idea just was okay. This whole game is all text, so so it's probably gonna be those voices the whole time. But in a actually, like PCP guy's text is also kind of a lot of the game, so it's pretty balanced. It works very well.
Yeah, it's probably annoying like in a vacuum, but once you put it all together, and it's
Yeah,
just
definitely.
good.
Oh, actually, what's
Yeah.
PCP guys? Because I don't remember. Does he
doesn't
have
have
one?
one.
He doesn't have one.
He doesn't have one.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
It distinguishes him from everyone else.
If
You have to
you
read him
would
yourself.
if you would have had one, you would have had to get the anime adaptation.
You could
of
sample
his
that
manga.
anime episode where that guy reacts to
Yeah.
that particular thing happening.
Yeah, I mean,
Should exist
actually.
somewhere.
Oh, one voice that is unused, I guess this
Mm-hmm.
is a bit of behind the scenes, was Jesse's original voice. Because Dr. Horseshoes and Jesse were separate characters in the script.
Yeah.
And so Dr. Horseshoes sounds calm. Just sounds like Jesse saying, but Jesse's actual voice, I have to there's so many of these. Here it is. If the keen-eared will recognize that as the iconic yellow from the beginning of that episode.
Of course.
It's not yellow. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Making his theme
Very
color yellow
appropriate.
was very delightful.
Incredible.
Nice.
Well, goodness, I mean, we'll never be able to get all of the details here, but what an amazing trip into the deep lore of what's gone on behind the scenes here. I mean, yeah, it's been awesome. There's so much more, I'm sure, that could be shared. Maybe, I don't know, maybe we could get more sometime in some other capacity.
Can I actually
But
say something?
please.
If anybody at all has heard of Remedy, where he went, because I'm a little worried about him. He's kind of this member who went MIA and he deleted his account. So if anybody knows anything, I'd love to know.
The fact that he deleted his account makes me think he's probably not like dead. He probably chose to leave, but it could be concerning. Yeah, who can say? Who can say?
Wanted Remedy, dead or alive.
Please come back.
30,000.
Slime coin.
By the way, in the chat, I am putting a zip file with all of the voices in the game. If you ever want to use them for any projects or whatever for any reason, you can.
Excellent, excellent.
Only make Undertale 2, but with a PCP.
Could you just quickly name drop what program you used to make these voices?
I used Audacity. It's
Oh, just Audacity.
Never heard of
just,
it.
Yeah,
It's just cut and loop
Audacity.
audio, so yeah. Right.
Cool.
I'd cut it to around 50 or 60 milliseconds. I'd put a quick fade out at the beginning and end so it doesn't clip.
Oh,
and
that
then
makes sense.
I'd select it and I'd apply repeat like about 800 times or whatever, and then I'd cut it to exactly 8 seconds.
Fascinating.
And the way the code in the game handles it, because we tried a few different approaches. We tried having an individual blip and having the game play it over.
I was
going
gonna
to
ask if that's what you did. Yeah.
But that resulted in like a gap, like they
Sure,
would
as
spread
it
out too
loads,
far because
probably.
it had to load every time.
Yeah.
Then we decided well, 8 seconds is probably, it'll never play all the way out, and let's just have it do a quick. We don't want it to cut hard at the end when the text stops, but we'll have it fade out quickly, so that way there's no clipping sound, and that worked pretty well.
Is it
Every
tied
time I
to
talk to
like
you,
when the
Olivia, I
text?
learn
If you press the button to like get to the end of the text, does it stop playing? Does it have like a check for that or something?
I assume I didn't do the coding for that.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just curious. I'm not playing right now, so I'm not sure. Awesome. Cool. DLC when? Callcast DLC when?
No, I want to make a real game.
It's one of those funny things of I'd like to do something with some of the people on this team again because it was great. Like working on this with some of these people. Like everybody who survived playtesting is now like my blood brother. But yeah, it's that same element of so DLC. It's like no.
Yeah, I'm
That's
very
understandable.
glad I can't
Need a break
call up
from this.
in the morning. Hey, you want to write Digi? I'm very glad Never Paint isn't real and he can't hurt me.
Hey, I'll just put this out there again. If you guys are interested in putting this up on some sort of paid platform, I bet we could work out some kind of arrangement if that's something that you are interested in doing. Some sort of splitting costs or revenues or something. So I'm just saying, you guys can lead that. If you have any interest, let me know. Well, we can talk.
The thing with the monetization was also that we're just too many people to bother figuring that out.
And it's hard
That
to
is
figure
certainly an obstacle. I understand.
The administrative costs of doing that would be so much higher than the actual reward monetarily.
And you know what? It's fucked up to say, but it's true. Like, no matter what, the amount of effort you guys have put in will absolutely not be fairly paid for the time and energy, no matter how successful it is in the wildest of dreams. So even though some money is always better than no money, it kind of just feels better to make nothing and think of it as just a labor of love, which I certainly have done many times myself.
Nate, the real dating sim were the friends we made along the way.
That's okay, you know, you're certainly right. But I do love
Literally
money,
true.
so if I can do it for little effort, I'm always going to try.
Get money, get money.
I would love to tear your little club apart here by making like $5 off this thing, by you being forced to monetize and decide how much everybody gets paid. That will lead to arguments. It will lead to strife. It will lead to the utter destruction of your friendship. God, I hope that happens, please.
I mean, so far we've gotten, I think,
We can just
we've
put
got
all
yeah,
of
there's a
the
legit.
into Word document, and people can send us money if they want to.
Oh, if there's a donation thing, hey, let them know.
We've
let
got.
'em
Well, I
know.
mean, that's what the Bandcamp is sort of for. If you want
Right,
to contribute, you
right.
can just go there and pay what you want. Though currently that's going to a secure account that even I can't access until certain things happen. But the logistical issue is PayPal, especially recently, sucks and I hate it. And it's the fees are just ridiculous. If you split it between like 30 people, each person gets 1 cent, because PayPal will just eat all of it. So it'd have to wait for it to build to a substantial amount first for it to even matter.
That's fair. That's fair.
Which is so I'm just waiting until it reaches a decent amount to where we can be like, okay, let's have the conversation of what to even do with it.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Well, there you go, people. Check out, of course, there's a link on screen right now and in the description to the dating sim. Go check out the Bandcamp. Is there a link in the chat or somewhere around for the Bandcamp as well? People can go check out. I'll try to add it to the description of the stream afterward or something.
Yeah.
Also,
But,
follow @PCP Dating on Twitter because we're still posting like
Right.
art assets and like just highlighting different artists that worked on the game, just to make sure that everyone gets like recognition. And and we're also gonna post some background stuff.
And if you haven't played it yet, play the damn game. It's a long ass time. It's a long ass game. A lot
How
of
long
shit.
is the game? Has anyone figured it out? How long the
To
game
play
is?
every route?
Yeah.
I mean, if you're like reading out loud, it takes a while. But I don't know
forget
if
that,
you're just
though.
reading
Most
it.
people don't do it.
Carla, who played all of it, said she had 12 hours in the game, but
That's
she
about as
wasn't
much
reading
as I
it,
would
so
think, yeah.
I don't know.
That makes sense. Yeah.
It's like
Sounds
a
about
real
right.
video game. That's crazy.
That's a real video game right there. That's a
Why
real
did we
video
make
game.
this thing?
Impressive. All right, let's call it, folks. This has been a wonderful
Yeah.
discussion, a very thorough and interesting discussion about all the background information on the goddamn dating sim. So go check it out,
Michelle
everybody.
is insisting on saying Geodude for some reason.
She always
really
is a
funny.
Geodude.
That's why.
She sexually identifies as a Geodude. It makes sex very uncomfortable, but that's fine. That's fine. Thank you,
She
Michelle.
will self-destruct sometimes.
I get the reference.
All right, we're out of here, folks. Go check out the dating sim. Thanks everybody for working on it. Chip, Eric, James, Neverpaint, Oblivion, Ouroboros to Shade, everybody, Asha. I think I said everybody. James, whatever. You know who you
Thanks
are.
for saying my name
Everybody
twice.
else. The million people who worked on it. Thank
You're
you so
welcome,
much.
guys. And
Thank
thanks
you,
for everything.
everyone. It was amazing.
Thanks everybody for playing and enjoying it so much. It was a lovely experience.
Thanks for
Hell
being
yeah.
the Procrastinators podcast and stuff, because that inspired all of it.
Hey,
That's
we'll
really
keep
the
it going.
funniest. That's the biggest joke is that the PCP podcast is responsible for all of this.
It's
I
a
said,
tragedy,
you know,
really.
it's the PCP isn't like the most amazing, mind-blowing thing in the world, but just having a consistent. I just think there really is value. Just having a consistent thing. Same people come back, talk about stuff. Some people like it, some people don't. It serves its purpose. If nothing else, it serves to allow radcons to eventually happen, and then things like this every once in a while. So I'm certainly happy it exists.
Yeah.
All right, let's get the
Same.
fuck out of here. See you next time, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.